Hello and welcome everyone to round 7 of the World Sports Car Challenge. Today we are visiting the track of Portimao in Portugal, also known as the Algarve International Circuit, a fairly new circuit to the motorsport world, built in 2008 and costing almost 250 million US dollars. But since its construction it has hosted several impressive series such as the FIA GT Championship, GP2, the World Touring Cars and the Le Mans series, but today it is hosting the virtual world of Rfactor2 with the World Sports Car Challenge as we continue the latter stages of this championship. Right now we are in the qualifying session as their drivers have 18 minutes left in order to get their teams on to pole position, but right now we have to run back in time because last fortnight was the 6 hours of Sebring, which was officially the halfway point of the season. So we're going to run back through the points and see what things are and where the teams currently stand. So still leading the way, but only just by a few points, is the Max Grip Endurance team with 125 points. They had their first DNF at Sebring 2 weeks ago, and that has allowed Rapid Racing to close the gap against them with their first win of the season. 109 points for the second team, and of course with their new paint scheme for this evening, which is looking mighty fine. So they need to continue the charge this evening if they want to catch up to the pole sitting LMP2 team. In third place is Hansa Racing, the number 69 car, with 86 points. They're a fair bit off the championship leaders, however they still have had an amazing show for this season. All of the finishes for that team are in the top 5, but yet still to win a podium. Exiled Motorsport, the number 55 car, are also present this evening. They have had podium finishes since their first race at Road Atlanta, and they are at 84 points, so definitely a team to look out for. Kyushu Motorsports are in 5th place, however they have sadly dropped from the championship, but they are currently on the standings with 82. And then close behind is Fair Play Sim Racing. They also suffered a DNF at Sebring and they have 74 points. Iceberg Racing got disqualified at Sebring, sadly, after excessive track limits abuse, and they are on 56 points. Spirit Sim Racing car on 52, Positive Energy Racing on 38, the other Exile Motorsport car, the number 54, on 28, and Northern Light Racing, who had their first showing 2 weeks ago at Sebring, on 18. BRT Evolution Horse, and we also have a new team which is DR Motorsport. They are here this evening with us as well, and they are yet to be put onto the scoreboard. Into GT3 now, Team RSI, after taking the lead of the race after Paul Ricard, are still in charge of the championship points as far as GT3 is concerned, with 111 in total. But chasing them and close behind is Sim Racing, number 7 car, the Poland Sim Racing team, with 94 points. They had a terrible race at Sebring, but an amazing display by Adam in the second stages of the race allowed them to get that podium finish. Martini Racing, the number 77 car, with 91 points. They are extremely close behind Poland Sim Racing and no doubt looking to close the gap after their 5th place finish 2 weeks ago. Morabia Rebellion are on 79 points. They have had a disastrous mid-season with 2 DNFs at both Paul Ricard and Sebring, and they are not showing for Portimao either, so that has hurt their championship hopes a lot. So bad news for that team there, but they're still in P4 for GT3 at the moment. Flat Out Racing, the number 20 car, with 64 points. That is another one of the Polish teams that are with us for this championship. And then Scuderia Shell Racing, the number 666 car, with 54. Team Markham, the number 100 car, that's another one of the Polish teams, are on 54 points. And then you have, 36 points, to apologise. And then Titan Squad, who have had a horrible mid-season as well. The DNF at both Silverstone, Bahrain and Paul Ricard, and then did not show for Sebring, means they are 34 points on the table. Calamity Motorsports, they did show for Sebring and they managed to get 6th place along with a 4th place at Paul Ricard. That means they're 32 points on the leaderboards. And then Pulse Racing, Simulation Racing, got their first win on their first showing at Sebring 2 weeks ago, which means they're on 25. Idus Motorsport, they got a CNF at Sebring as well, 24 points. Schubert Motorsport 22 points, the two exiled cars 20 and 18, Reverse Gear Motorsports on 16 points, the Endurance 6 esports car on 12, and they are tied with AMBU Racing. And of course they have two cars with us this evening as well. And then rounding out the bottom of the table is Team Project D and the number 8 Rebellion car. So that is the standings at the moment, and we have 22 teams on the grid with us this evening for the 3 hours of Portimao. 13 minutes left in qualifying, and we'll go through the order now with you and see who is where. So leading the way and on pole position for LMP2 is the new team, and that is Black Hawk Racing. They've taken their Mazda-powered Lola car to pole position currently with a 132.8 for that team. In charge of that vehicle is Daniel Wisner, I think that's pronounced correctly, and his teammate is Kazabakis, and they are in charge of the number 6 for this evening. Rapid Racing, with their new paint scheme, are in second place, currently in the garage, so we can't see it, unfortunately. They have put down a time of 133.8 with Mikhail Nizio in charge of the car. And then we have the current leading car in third place, Max Grip Endurance Team, with a 133.1. So, bad news for that team there. Actually, there's something wrong there because it's showing them in third place. Maybe it got disqualified. That must be the reason, because that last lap time was actually faster than Rapid Racing's, but it has not put them up the grid, so I'm sure that is a track limit issue there by that team, which means that their fastest lap, according to this board, was their last lap, which was a 134.6. So bad news, but I'm sure that they will rectify that issue in the next few laps or so. Then we have the number 54 Exiled Motorsport Lola. That is currently being driven by Paul Holt, and that's a 133.1 as well. There's something definitely wrong with my timing board here. I believe that Mikhail Nizio's time is not a true representation of what he's actually done, because according to this he's gone slower than both Paul Holt and Balatsvaro. So I do apologise for that. But we'll move on. Rick Van de Veldem in the 55 Lola. That's the second Exile Motorsport car. Is on a 133.2. Very quick team here. I'm surprised that they have not had a victory so far in this season, but they've always finished on the podium, provided that nothing else goes wrong. So definitely one to look out for in the next 3 hours or so. And then we have the new team as well, the 420 Hansa Racing car. This is Max Barkley in charge of that vehicle. That is the 420, which is a new showing for this round. And then you have David Buckley in the Positive Energy car. He is on a 134.2 with that current vehicle. Alexander Meshkov takes the Iceberg 58 car into 8th place on the grid with a 135.4 on the table. And then you have new showers DR Motorsport with Darryl Russell. He's in P9, rounding out the LMP2s on field at the moment. First of the GT3s with their new Poland Sim Racing sponsored car is Gregor Bulat. He has done a time of 140.1 and has put that on that GT3 car onto pole position for this evening. So we've still got 10 minutes to go, but it looks like it's going to be the case again for the number 7 car. Mars Dixon in Pulse Simulation Racing in the Chevrolet Camaro. That's the number 52 with their very bright new paint scheme on the side of that car, 140.4 for that team. Then you have the second Poland Sim Racing car. I can't pronounce that name, so I do apologise, but that is going to be the number 90. They're taking the number 7 today because the paint scheme has not loaded correctly, but that is the second Poland Sim Racing team. 140.4 for that team means they take the last remaining pole position for the GT3 category. Pim van Ark in the Exiled Motorsport car, the Ferrari 488, and that is 4th place for that team with a 140.440. So there you have it. Those from 2nd place on the grid, there is literally 0.4 hundredths of a second between those teams in terms of their qualifying times. And then you have Team RSI in the Bentley, and that is a 140.458, so it's even closer. And we can continue that all the way through the field as Louis Moreno in AMBU Racing, that's the number 61 car, is in 15th overall, 140.7 for that team there. And then you have the rest of the teams lining up. That is number 88 BMW going down into Sector 3 right now. And that is a 140.9 by that team. Dan Kell in Calamity Motorsport in the 89 car. 141.2 for those guys. Victor Garrido, the number 77. Usually a team that is higher up in terms of qualifying. Very fast bunch of guys. And he's just gone slightly quicker with a 140.6. But it's not enough to get him up the order where we are used to seeing them, and that obviously demotes the Ferrari team down the order, and he's just gone quicker. Louis Marino has just put in a blaster of a time, and that is second place in GT3, 140.2 there by that Ferrari team. Great lap, and no doubt he's got to be happy with that with 8 minutes to go left in qualifying. We'll continue down the order though, because Arcadius Atruba in the Lamborghini Huracan, number 48. They are with a lap time on the grid with a lap time of 141.6, and then you have Joshua Jones in the Idus Motorsport car. That is the Mercedes AMG, 141.665. The second AMB Racing car is second to last place at the moment with a 142.9, and then you have Laurence Dougherty in the Bentley Continental GT3 with a 143.2. So that is the current order of things. With 7 minutes remaining, you have your current leader going round, Daniel Wisner, at the moment. Oh, bit of lag there, I believe, and I think that might be because someone else is joining the server. Yes, that is correct, so we'll soon have them on the live timing, hopefully. Unless it was a spectator, I'm not too sure. There's a lot of lag at the moment. I'm not sure what's causing that, but that will be rectified before the start of the race for you guys. Right now, though, we're going to go for a quick commercial break while we've just had, was it a second driver enter the grid? Who is that? Doesn't really make for good streaming if people keep joining near the end of qualifying. But now we have 23 teams on the start as opposed to 22, so that's an extra car going round, but it is causing a lot of issues. So we're going to cut to a quick break, and we will be back shortly once they have all finished their times. Hello and welcome back to the stream. We are live at round 7 of the World Sports Car Challenge. At the moment we are at the circuit of Portimao with 2 minutes of qualifying left or 2 minutes of qualifying left before we go for the 3-hour race event. 23 teams and cars line up on the grid for the start, and right now we are on board with Rfactor2 in the Max Grip Endurance car as he comes across the line and down the inside of one of the Exile Motorsport Ferraris to begin his last qualifying lap, and that was not going to count because he's just gone wide into turn 1 as we suffer more lag issues for some apparent reason that is unknown to us at the moment. So we can only apologise until that gets resolved. But it looks like Daniel Visner in the Black Hawk Racing car, which is the new team for this round, is going to be taking pole position for their first showing, and that is going to spell bad news for the Max Grip Endurance team because they need these points if they want to keep their championship hopes alive. Of course, with a 3-hour race ahead, anything can happen, and qualifying is only a small victory when the race distance is this long, but it can help you get a victory if you can get away from the rest of the pack in time. So what can Rfactor2 do in order to get that 285 car onto the very front pole position in order to get away from the second place car, which is Rapid Racing? Now, Mikel Nizio in the Rapid Racing car is still in the garage with his lap time of 1:33.8, so he's not going to go for another run, which is extremely strange. He seems fairly comfortable with what he can do and what that car is capable of. No doubt looking to charge ahead when the lights go green. But right now we're going to go on board with Rfactor2 as he comes across the line for his last lap. So down the hill into turn 1, with a lot of high speed coming through here as you try not to run wide onto the curbing on the left hand side, and then slam on the brakes down into second or first gear, and then you've got to be very careful on the throttle on this uphill section because the front of the car wants to just drop away as the tarmac is falling from underneath the car, and then power down into turn 6. Very tight hairpin. It's going to be very hard to manage, especially on worn tyres for these LMP2 cars. You've got a quick flick to the left and then down one gear as you go into these fast right hand corners, this double right hander, and then back up the hill again, another place where there's low traction on the circuit, and then it's full power for the LMP2s as they go into the left hand kink and then stick to the left hand side and down into third, and that is sector 3 starting now. Nice control there by Rfactor2 as he comes down into the last few corners. A lot of engine braking from this car, which is I'm quite surprised at considering the temperatures that Portimao may present, and then it's just simply full throttle down into the last corner and across the line. Now, of course, with the circuit of Portimao, there is going to be a ton of degradation on the left-hand side of the car as he comes across the line for the final time. That is qualifying finished, and that means that the LMP2 Mazda-powered Lola is going to take victory for qualifying for Black Hawk Racing, and they must be delighted about that. Their first showing of the season, and already they are on the front of the grid. Not by much though, it was literally a thousandth of a second between the two cars as they came across the timing lines, and Rfactor2 gave it everything in order to get that pole position, but it just was not enough. Another surprise of the day is Paul Holt, the number 54 Exile Motorsport car, 133.3 by that team, and it's usually the other way around. Usually we see the number 55 with Rick van der Velden and Cliff van der Vin that take the front row for the Exile Motorsport cars, so that must be a bit of a surprise for that team. And then of course you have Mikel Nizio in the Rapid Racing car. Of course, we are in the warm-up session now, which means we've got a 5-minute window for the drivers to finally prepare themselves and get ready for the challenge ahead. 3 hours they will have to endure this very fast circuit, and of course the tyres are going to be absolutely destroyed with all these fast right-hand corners that the circuit has to offer. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of strategies we may see. How much tyre wear are we going to get on those inner walls, and especially on the inside tyres that aren't going to suffer as much tyre wear as the outside. So it'll be very interesting to see if they can double stint the insides but only change the outsides. But only time will tell, of course, as they all come out for the last final time onto the track. Now DR Motorsport are just coming out as well, and that is, I believe, Max Bartley. No, that's the new Hansa car. That is Darrell Russell in that car. And they're taking the Oracle Nissan for the season onto the track. The number 12 car in that green coloured LMP2. And we seem to have lost 2 teams as well. 21 on the grid at the moment, so maybe they will rejoin after a while. But right before the start of the race, we have 3 minutes just gone before we have to go racing. We're going to cut to a small commercial break again, and then we will get back with the 3-hour race live here at Chequered Flag Endurance and the World Sports Car Challenge. I shall see you in a small moment. Welcome back to the live stream. You are live with us at Checkered Flag Endurance for round 7 of the World Sports Car Challenge, and we are about to start the 3 hours of Portimao as the drivers are just finishing their warm-up session now. They will have to go live in a few moments' time as the cars get onto the grid in their respective positions. So we'll run through the order one more time for you before we go racing. Running through the LMP2 field, we have the Black Hawk racing car in pole position with Daniel Visner in charge of their new Mazda-powered Lola. And then right behind, with only a thousandth of a second behind, was Balazs in the Max Grip Endurance team. And that was a great show by the driver, but it was not enough to secure pole position for him, and he starts in second place. Then you have Paul Holt in the Exile Motorsport number 54. He is in the third place position for the LMP2s. And then you have Mikhail Nizio in Rapid Racing, and he is in third place. Then you have Rick van der Velden in the number 55. That is not the result that he was looking for this event. However, he is still within a good chance for victory here today, but he starts in 5th place in LMP2. And then you have Max Barkley in the new 420 Hansa Racing car, and he is in 6th place. Then David Buckley in the Positive Energy car, he is in 7th place. And then Matthias Nochel in the number 90 Fairplay Sim Racing car. Then you have Iceberg Racing Team. They are starting in 9th in class, and that is it for the LMP2s. Then you have Gregor Spielat. He is in the pole position for the GT3 cars, and that is the number 7 Poland Sim Racing BMW who is sitting there. And then Victor Garrido in the Martini 77 is in 2nd place with his Chevrolet Camaro. Then Team RSI, who are doing a great job in the latter stages of qualifying, they managed to get onto 3rd place. That is 23rd. That is 3rd place in GT3 for that team. Then the second Poland Sim Racing car, that is the number 90, but they're taking the number 7 skin for today. They are in 4th place, just outside of the podium for that team. And then AMBU Racing in the Ferrari 488, they are in 5th in class. Pole Simulation Racing, they take 6th place in class, along with Pim van Ark with the Exile Motorsport Ferrari. And then the rest of the grid line up with the number 88 Titan Squad, Calamity Motorsports, Arkadiusz Satriba in the WM Motorsport car, Joshua Jones in Idos Motorsport, AMBU Racing, the number 53, and then Enduro Esports, the Bentley Continental. But going back to the front of LMP2 now, because the safety car is just navigating its way around the final few corners, and then we will begin the 3 hours of Portimao, round 7 of the World Sports Car Challenge. Warming up those tyres and getting ready to go across the line. Now the start line is once again the overhead banner of the circuit as they go down the main straight, and they will need a 5-second gap between both of the cars. So there come the 9 LMP2s that are about to take on the challenge ahead as they go too wide and wait for the green, and one car's already gone sideways. That is Rapid Racing, so that's a disastrous start by the team, and one of the cars has already gone. That is the number 420. He's certainly going to get a penalty for not listening in qualifying, and they are racing. There goes Max Barkley, makes a great lead. Daniel Visner goes down into turn 1 with Max Grip Endurance Team on the inside, and they're able to hold the position. And then number 54 comes down the outside of turns 3 and into 4 they go. 3 cars right nose to tail, and you can't tell any difference between them, and that means that Hansa Racing have gone down the order and promoted Rick van der Velden into P4. So bad news there by that team. He didn't listen in the driver briefing, which means that he's going to get a penalty and has lost a lot of positions as a result. Moving back into GT3 though, because Gregor Spielat has made a great start for his team. Once again they hold the position, and also the other Poland Sim Racing team also moves into 2nd in class. So that means that AMBU, the Pole Simulation car, and Martini Racing all lost out on the start of that race in the GT3 category. No doubt it's got something to do with Rapid Racing getting spun around, which is bad news for their hopes of this race as well. So Rapid Racing down into P6 after that start, and that is a not good place for him to be, because he wants to be far up the order in order to get those points to chase down the Max Grip Endurance team for the time when they come down to the 6 hours of Daytona in a few weeks' time. Daniel Visner still in the lead of this race. Got a fairly nice gap now as they come down into the last corner for the first time. Of course, the tyres are beginning to warm up. They will want to get temperature into the tyres as quickly as possible so they can get down to their optimum pace and start making the gaps even larger compared to their competitors. 2 pit stops are required in terms of both fuel and strategy by the teams, so that's probably going to happen on the hour for both the categories. And let's get out the gaps for you now. So only 0.3 seconds now as I come down into Sector 2. And that is between Balazsvara and Daniel Visner in the number 6 Black Hawk Racing. Now it's about who can take advantage of these early stages of the race. Now we already have a few drivers behind. That is Paul Holt in the number 54 and the number 55 behind with Rick van der Velden. Now interestingly, obviously the number 55 is higher in terms of the championship points. Are they going to allow them to pass the number 54 car? Are team orders going to come into play, because the number 54 is way down the championship points in terms of the LMP2 category, and of course the 55 is running in 4th at the moment. A good result here for the number 55 could see them be put onto the podium in terms of points, so he needs a good finish here this evening. Going back into GT3 though, Gregor Spielat has got a lead of 1.5 seconds over his fellow team. It's going to get fairly confusing during the next 3 hours because they're both taking the number 7 skin, but that is the number 90 that you're seeing in front of you now, and they are a new entry for this round and for the rest of the championship. I would try and pronounce that name for you if I could, however I would only screw it up in great fashion. And then close behind as well is the number 61 AMBU car. 1 second between these guys, and they're still going to get the slipstream as they come down to finish the second lap of this race. Pole simulation also on the back door of the podium in GT3. Not letting the Ferrari go, and of course runs over the curbing there on the exit of turn 1. Now, in terms of track limits, the drivers have been told that it's still 2 wheels within the white lines for these corners, and there's a lot of places in Portimao that are fairly easy to overdrive, and the car will just slide over those white lines as he looks down the inside, coming into the hairpin. Is he going to be able to make it do it? No, he doesn't. He tucks in behind, but gets the inside line on the exit. Comes down into Sector 2 now, as we suffer a bit of lag, unfortunately. Fingers crossed that will iron itself out as we enter the rest of the race. Not able to do much at this stage of the race though. The drivers have to remember that it is a long race. Still 2 hours and 54 minutes. We're only 5 minutes in, and anything can happen within that window of time, so they need to be extremely careful about what they do. When's the right time to overtake? When's the right time to preserve the tyres? And that is what will get you victory here this evening. Of course, the front running teams are very experienced in that regard. They know what needs to be done in order to get a win here this evening. And of course, Pulse Simulation are just coming out of their first victory of the season. 2 weeks ago they won the 6 hours of Sebring. So no doubt they're looking to expand on that and get some more points here by getting onto the podium for the second time here at Portimao as well. And there's some massive lag spikes for these cars, so I do apologise for that, but I will try and work around it and through it for you and try and bring you the best report I can. Right, let's move back into LMP2 because they are still nose to tail as Daniel Visner in the number 6 Black Hawk Racing car enters Sector 3 again. Close behind is the Max Grip Endurance team. They're no strangers to victory in this championship. They have won the first 5 rounds so far, and it's only because of the DNF 2 weeks ago at Sebring that they have allowed the other teams to close the gap in terms of the championship points. So they need to get a second victory here, or another victory here, if they want to try and keep their championship hopes alive. But of course, all they need to do at this moment in time is keep Rapid Racing behind them. They are currently running in 6th in class behind the number 90 Fair Play Sim racing car. Now we know that the Rapid Racing car is extremely quick, so we will probably witness an overtake come or happen shortly between the number 90 and the 13 as the number 90 goes wide coming into sector 2 there. That was at turn 5 and allows Rapid Racing to go into P5. That's one off the list for the team, and now they must begin the charge to get back into competition with the rest of the LMP2 field. The next car up ahead is 4 seconds up the road, and that is Rick van der Velden in the number 55, and he himself has a 2.5 second gap between themselves and the number 54 car of Paul Holt. Blatzvaro then 0.6 seconds off the leading car, doesn't want to let him out of his sight, doesn't want to lose the slipstream because that can spell chaos, especially if he knows that that car is slower in a straight line. I believe the Yorica Nissan doesn't have the best power unit behind it, but those Lolas are certainly quick on a powerful circuit like Portimao. As they come down, full commitment there as they come down into the last corner and begin lap 5 of the race. Fastest lap there was by Daniel Visner, 1:34.2. So he is slowly extending that lead now to 0.8 seconds as he comes down to the braking zone of turn 1. Blatzvaro though really good on the brakes there, knocked at least 0.3 seconds off the lead of that number 6 car just under the brakes alone. However, you can see the Yorica Nissan starting to fall back, even though he has the slipstream of that number 6 Black Hawk Racing car. It's just slowly ebbing away, and it starts to go into 0.89 second gap again. So Daniel Visner is responding to the pace of the Max Grip Endurance team and ready to make a mark here on their first showing of the season. Going back to the GT3 once again though, because Gregor Spilak is still charging away, and Max Barkley has served his drive-through penalty, as you can see in the chat, for jumping the start of the race. So the 420, bad news for them as they go through the pit lane, and that has already scuppered their chances of a race victory here this evening, as they have at least 19 seconds between them and the next competitive LMP2. And then they have to get into contention past that as well. However, back to the GT3, Gregor Spilak extends his lead over his fellow teammate, the other number 90 car, who's currently obviously number 7. 2.7 seconds, or just over 3 seconds between these two teams, the two Poland sim racing teams. Looks like they're going for a 1-2 this evening, with only 10 minutes into the race. Still a long way to go though, as AMBU Racing are close behind as well. Only 0.5 seconds between these cars. And then you have Pole Simulation as well, who is directly behind. And then you have Pim van Ark, not letting the front pack go either. So it'll be interesting to see what these 3 GT3 cars are going to do, because they are essentially a second between the 3 teams as they come down into sector 3 past turns 14. So when is the right time to fight? When are they going to start putting the risk of overtaking into the mix? It's early stages of this race. They don't want to be taking any chances for track position unless it's something that they clearly know that they're going to be able to achieve. And oh wow, the number 52 goes right into the air as it hits the inside curbing into turn 1 there. And then Pim van Ark is taking advantage as he's trying to reassert the tyres onto the tarmac. That Chevrolet Camaro extremely fast in a straight line though compared to the Ferrari cars, but seems to struggle a bit in the corners as we've got an overtake down into turn 7 there. That is Toro Vip, turn 6, apologies. And then Pim van Ark wants a piece of the action as well. He's looking to take advantage of that overtake situation. That was the number 61 demoted down by Pulse Simulation Racing. Pim van Ark, though, not able to make it happen as the Ferrari goes very sideways into Craig's corner. And this is turn 11 now, Portimao itself. It's the only corner of the circuit that's actually named after the actual entirety of the circuit itself, where it's located. And still a bit of action here as they try and fight their way through again. I'm very surprised to see that we are fighting so early on in this race between these three teams. The AMBU Ferrari obviously struggling with that straight line speed because the number 52 has made a bit of a headway as it comes down into the last corner. Clearly the straight lines are the Chevrolet Camaro's strong points, but is Pim van Ark going to be able to get the slipstream done as he comes down into turn 1? Has a little peak by going onto the dirty side of the track, but tucks it back inside for turn 1, and then the 52 goes wide again. Definitely something that he's going to have to be careful of, because if he continues that, he will see himself receive a penalty, so he has to be extremely careful about that indeed. 61 goes a bit airborne there as he comes down up over turn 5. Not able to get it done still. Pim van Ark, though, not letting him go. Got the slipstream, wants to keep that Ferrari right at his fingertips. Of course, you have to be extremely careful about what you do at this stage of the race. You can lose everything here right now, and we've already got a DNF on our screen, and that is the second AMBU racing car. That is the number 53 that is retired and in the garage for some reason. We don't know why. Maybe they can enlighten us with some information at a later stage. As the number 57 goes around the outside there. Tucks it back on the inside as they come down into sector 3, turn 14. Looks down the inside. There's a bit of a gap there between the AMBU car and the 57. Over the brow of the hill, use all the horses in that Ferrari as he tries to get into the slipstream one more time. Maximum power from both these Ferrari cars. They must be in full power mode in order to keep this position. Pim van Ark's got the slipstream as he comes down into turn 1. He's gone over to the racing line, or sorry, the dirty racing line. He's side by side and down into turn 1 he goes. Takes that position away and he goes wide massively onto the tarmac, onto the curbing, and rejoins behind the AMBU car. So it was a audacious manoeuvre, but didn't pay off in the end as he tried to play the braking game. But it did not work. So back into position then goes the number 57 Exile Motorsport car. And only 15 minutes into this race, they have had an overtaking battle for position. Now I must point out that this is for 4th in class in GT3. So it's a fairly nice chunk of points here for the teams if they can get the job done. I'm happy to report that I think the lag has sorted itself out as well, so that has not an issue at the moment, fingers crossed. But we'll leave these guys to battle it out because they are going to be going at it for a while, because 57 goes around the outside. I'll stay with them a bit longer as they go into sector 3. 57 still has the lead of the two cars and he's into P4 at the moment. That means he's going to have the inside line for turn 14, and that is a pass for position. Pim van Ark is promoted to 4th in class for the GT3s as he comes down into turn 15 and onto the main straight. I think the Ferrari of Louis Marino is too far back to take advantage of that slipstream. I don't see him coming back on this particular lap. That is correct, as they both come down the hill and into turn 1 once more. No further action there between those two cars. But let's go back to the lead of the race, because the Black Hawk racing car is still extending its lead over the rest of the field. 2.7 seconds between himself and the next competitive car, which is Balazs Faro in the Max Grip Endurance team. But however, we do have a fight on our hands, because Paul Holt in the number 54, the Exile Motorsport car as well, is 0.4 seconds behind of the 285. This is all good news, of course, for Rapid Racing, because if they take this position, then that means they have less points to lose and the championship will be closer for the next round. So, can Paul Holt take the position away from the 285? Blatzfaro will not surrender that position easily because he is extremely competitive and knows that the championship could be on the line if they get a bad result here today. Down the hill they go into Craig Jones' corner. And into Portimao. That Orcanesa seems to be slightly better on the exits in terms of power. But it's the slipstream that counts here at Portimao. You can lose a lot of time going down the back straight compared to your fellow competitors. So what can the Lola do? What can Paul Holt in the number 54 achieve on the end of lap 10? .4 seconds between the two cars, and it's slowly coming down. 0.3. That Lola must be screaming as it comes down into turn 1. The start of turn 11, and Max Grip Endurance team go wide as they come into turn 1. So many teams are going to be doing that through the next 2 hours and 40 minutes, I'm sure. And then that means that Paul Holt can take advantage, because that means that he's unsteady going into the next section of corners. 0.3 seconds again as they come on back onto the track and into sector 2 and into the hairpin of turn 6. And now we're seeing the GT3 traffic come into play as well. Further advantage here to Paul Holt. Can he get the job done under traffic conditions? As Louis Marino is on the racing line, coming into turn 10. Nice job down around the outside. Paul Holt goes around the outside as well, struggling on the rear grip with that Lola car, but manages to follow Max Grip Endurance team through. Pim Van Mark has gone wide, I do believe. That's Mars Dixon. That is Mars Dixon in the pole simulation car. He went wide coming into turns 13 and 14, and that means that Pim Van Mark is the third place GT3 car as he comes into lap 10. So great driving there by the team. Consistency is what you need to get the job done, and he is the first of the Ferraris to get onto the podium for this round. But still leading the way in GT3, of course, is Gregor Bulat and the fellow Poland Sim Racing car. Blatzfaro had to go defensive there on lap 12 against Paul Holt, and that is going to bring Rick van der Velden back into play as well. You can see the second Lolas. This is 1, 2, 3 Exo Motorsport cars, all within the same camera shot. Paul Holt must be eager to get past. That means that he will be in second place. He's currently third as things stand in the LMP2 field, as you can see on your timing boards in front of you. But the number 54 is not in a good position in terms of points championship wise, so no doubt he wants to change that this evening by promoting the team on to second place if he can. And Blatzfaro gets away with it as Paul Holt gets stuck behind the number 7 BMW car as he comes down the inside. There we go, job done. He's finally back into the rhythm of things, but that has cost him 1.8 seconds to the 285 car. Not ideal for the 54 driver. Of course, traffic management is a major thing here in endurance racing. In a series like this, when you have LMP2s and GT3s all going around the same circuit, it's vital that you are able to slice through the traffic safely and quickly in order to get the maximum advantage you can against your other competitors and the other teams that are going around. Blatzfaro is very experienced when it comes to that. He knows when to place the car. He will slow down a few corners before if he needs to, if it means that he will get a nice undercut against a GT3 car the next corner. So he uses that to his advantage. 1.6 second gap now between him and Paul Holt in the number 54. Now is the question, can Paul Holt regain that lost time? Can he get back into the rhythm of things and attach himself to the back of that Oracle Nissan? And there is the pole sitter, Gregor Spulat. He is going through turn 10 right now in that GT3, the current leader. And Paul Holt comes up close behind as well. But Gregor Spulat is going to hug that inside line as he comes down and into Sector 3. Goes down the inside, nicely done. And they can continue the race and continue the charge for that second place podium finish. Let's go back on board with the leader though, because he has navigated all the traffic for the first time in that Mazda powered Lola. Coming out on the back of Calamity Motorsport, who appear to be far down the order compared to the rest of his fellow GT3 teams. Currently running in 19th overall, Dan Kell behind the wheel of that number 89 Bentley GT3, and that is bad news for that team. They're already a lap down compared to the leaders, and that is the first GT3, and that is compared to the leading GT3, should I say, and the rest of the field. So bad news for that team there. And he's not the only one, because the number 88 BMW as well, with Matias, is also down in the order. It was still one lap down compared to the rest of the field, but 43 seconds off Dan Kell as well. And then you also have the Lamborghini Huracan, the number 48 with Arkadiusz Atriba. They are also down the order and one lap down off of the 88 car. So bad news for all of those teams. Their race victory chances are pretty much in the dust as they come across the line again. Right, where is the fights going on? Let's have a look at the live timing, because there must be someone having a battle somewhere. Oh, big sideways moment for the 48 as he comes down into turn 1. Managed to get it quickly back underway. Those tyres are going to be massively overheated now. He's got to be careful for the next few corners. As he comes over turn 5. And continues the race without incident. So good news for him, he managed to save the car. No further issues for that team. Nearly half an hour into the first hour of this race then. 2 hours and 35 minutes remaining at the 3 hours of Portimao. And Daniel Wisner is leading the way at lap 15 by 5.6 seconds in that car. Now, for those of you that aren't aware of CFEG or the World Sports Car Challenge, they will need to make 2 pit stops during this race, of which a driver change will need to be conducted. And each driver that gets in the car needs to complete 1 hour's worth of driving time over the course of the 3 hours. So, it'll be interesting to see what the teams can do. It's fairly straightforward. They will need to do 2 pit stops anyway to save the fuel. Otherwise they will just simply not make it, especially with the LMP2 cars. Most likely we'll need to do a 3-stop strategy unless they go into fuel saving mode. We'll have to wait and see what teams take that option and whether or not it's achievable here at the 3 hours of Portimao. But it is a fairly short circuit compared to some of the others that we've been to in the season. 1 minute 30 appears to be the bracket of time that you can expect from the LMP2s, and then 140s are where the GT3s are currently standing as well. So the fastest time currently by the teams is by the Black Hawk Racing car with a 1:33.6, and then second place down is the Max Group Endurance team with a 1:34.1. So that's the kind of pace that you can expect from these teams. Of course, Blatzvaro will be eager to get onto the back of the Black Hawk Racing car, as he's now got a 2.3 second lead over Paul Holt in the number 54 Exiled Motorsport car. So he's not able to manage the traffic as well as Blatzvaro at this stage of the race. Of course, that can change. Sometimes it is down to a bit of luck. But for now, there's a bit of breathing space between the top 3 cars in LMP2. Let's go back down to GT3 though, because we have Pulse Simulation. The number 52 Chevrolet Camaro is going toe-to-toe once again with AMBU Racing. The number 61 car with Luis Marino, and it's a tap on the backside of that Chevrolet Camaro, and that means that he goes a bit airborne and sideways because the Rfactor2 physics make up their own mind about what happens, and that means that he has suffered damage as a consequence. However, was it Luis Marino allows him back into position, so good sportsmanship there. He knew that that was his fault and allows the car back into position and continues the race. So that the front fenders of these GT3 cars are extremely sensitive to damage, so fingers crossed both the teams have got away with that and no damage has been caused. That does mean that there's a bit more breathing space again between these two cars now. 1.1 seconds between the two of them as they come down into turn 11. And then the second battle on our hands is between Laurence Ducati and Joshua Jones in the Ardus Motorsport car. So this is the 96 Bentley Continental Enduro 6 eSport team, and Ardus Motorsport with Joshua Jones behind the wheel of the Mercedes AMG. Down into turn 11 they go. That's a very ambitious move there by the Mercedes driver. A bit of tap and a bit of exchange of body paint, but luckily they both got away with that one, able to continue the race. So this is for P16 overall, or 6th in class. And we've just had someone come into the pits. That is Pulse Simulation Motorsports. They've decided that they are either going to pit early or that they've suffered damage as a result of that contact. I did have a few offs earlier, but the jacks go up. New tyres going on that Chevrolet Camaro. Be interested to see if they do a driver change as well, but we'll come back to them later on as Black Hawk Racing continue the charge. 7.5 seconds against the 285 car. Lap times are 1:33s, so very good times here by Daniel Visner. We've yet to see, because this is their first showing of the season, we're still yet to see what kind of pace his teammate is able to put down. So definitely something to look out for as we enter the next few hours or so. Number 54 has gone off the map. That is Paul Holt. So he's been demoted now to 4th place in class. Rick van der Velden has been able to get into 3rd place. I'm not too sure whether or not that was an incident or whether or not he just span out as a result, or I'm not too sure. We missed out on that piece of information. But however, that means that the 55, the ones that are with championship hopes and 4th place in the standings, have finally got onto the podium of this race as he navigates around the 48 Lamborghini Huracan, the only one on grid at the moment. Let's go back to the battle with Luis Marino and Team RSI, because they have disappeared but reappeared onto the back of that 61 AMBU racing car. Now Team RSI are currently leading the GT3 Championship here at the World Sports Car Challenge. So they need to get a podium finish to just ease off the pressure that is likely to arrive, because the Gregor Spilat and the other Poland sim racing team are currently leading this race and only a few points behind in the championship standings. So a good result here for Team RSI is vital if they want to keep them at bay. .2 seconds between these two cars. Daniel Vidimari currently in charge of the number 23 Bentley Continental GT3. As he comes down into turn 13. See what he can do over the next few laps. Last lap times for the two cars as they come across the timing line, 1:43.6 for both of them. Was it Louis Marino is slightly faster than Team RSI at the moment as he came across the timing line, but only by 0.1 tenths of a second. Seems to be making a few mistakes here though as he comes down into turn 5. Let's have a look at the leading GT3 car, Gregor Spilat in the Poland Sim Racing car. Massive lead of 11 seconds over his fellow teams. And then you have Pim van Ark who's battling out for second place as well. This is Ferrari vs BMW as they come down into turns 10. Pim van Ark is really on his charge at the moment as he goes around the outside into Portimao. Tucks it back down inside of the BMW, but not alongside. That's not enough track to get the job done here at the moment as he comes down into turns 12 and 13. He's going to have to wait for the slipstream on the main straight unless he can get it tucked in down the inside into turn 14. Is he going to get it done? No, he's not. So slipstream it is then for the Ferrari GT3. Tucks himself behind the BMW M6 as they come down into the last corner and onto the main straight. Maximum power, I'm sure the engine mode has been cranked up to full as he comes down the back straight. And that BMW is flying, so the BMW must have upgraded its engine power there as he comes down into turn 1. So we have a race for second place in GT3 with only half an hour of this race elapsed so far. Still 2 hours and 26 minutes remaining here at the 3 hours of Portimao. That Ferrari 488 is extremely good under the brakes as you just see him gain a ton of time against that BMW M6 in the hairpin of turn 6. And down into Samson corner there as he comes very wide there for the number 57. You need to watch the curbing on that outside line because it can drag you onto the grass and cause your vehicle a lot of damage, and at the very least cost you a lot of time as well. But he seems to have regained his posture. 0.3 seconds between himself and the number 7 BMW painted Poland Sim Racing car. Right, can he get the job done on this lap now? He's a bit closer in terms of bumper to bumper. 0.2 seconds separating them now as they come down onto the main straight again. The BMW cranks up that engine power mode to full, and you see the gap just widen there as he comes down across the line again. So if the overtaking is going to get done, it's going to have to be in the corners for Pim van Ark. That's where the Ferrari has the advantage here this evening. As you can see, he really takes all of that time. Maybe I'm thinking that the Poland Sim Racing BMW has slightly lower rear wings, slightly lower traction, because he seems to be struggling in the corners. Pim van Ark looks down the inside, but that's blocked by the number 7, and he goes down the outside as a result. Side by side as he comes into turn 6 and down into the braking zone. Is he going to have to get the job done? Tucks back up and needs to undercut, done. Amazing stuff there as the number 7 goes deep into the braking zone into turn 6, and Pim van Ark and Exiled Motorsport are promoted into second in class. Great stuff there. Now, is the BMW number 7 going to be able to come back and fight for that position? With only half an hour, 35 minutes have elapsed in this race, and we're already seeing battles for the podium finish, oh sorry, podium positions. So good stuff here by both teams. It looks like the BMW is falling behind slightly compared to Pim van Ark, so it's a great move there by the 57 car. But now he needs to defend that position as the BMW is a lot stronger on that straight. Needs a good exit here as he comes back down onto turns 15. Is it enough to defend the second place in GT3? We'll soon find out in a few moments. Bit of lag there, do apologise for that. And it is enough indeed, as the BMW comes right down the inside, but Tuck decides to stay behind the number 57. And that is job done there by Exiled Motorsport. Great driving there from Pim van Ark, and it looks like he has secured that position now for the foreseeable future, provided nothing else goes wrong. But let's go back to the lead of LMP2 now. Black Hawk Racing continue the charge, 6.3 seconds between themselves and the 285. Just coming up against all of the traffic. Again, there is the two GT3 cars that we were just watching, the number 7 and the number 57. As he looks down the inside, but decides to stay behind as they go down into turns 8 and 9. Of course, needs to be very careful about where he overtakes these two cars as he goes around the outside. That is job done there, and into turn 10 and 11. Heavy on the brakes without Mazda Lola car. And job done. That's cost him a bit of time though, 2 seconds to be exact, because Rfactor2 in the Max Grip Endurance Team car is now only 4 seconds behind. So managing traffic can be time consuming, as we just found out, because that lead that he spent so long to, perfecting his lines and lap times has all just been thrown out the window while trying to navigate these two GT3 cars. And that's what makes endurance racing so special. It can all go out the window if you don't do it properly. And wow, that was extremely close maneuver there by Max Grip Endurance Team. Just cut across the pit line, entry line. Flash of the headlights as he comes down the inside of the number 57 Ferrari. And there's cars everywhere at the moment at Portimao. Very busy moment there for the two teams. But managed to navigate safely and continue the race. No incidents, that's what we like to see. So, Rick van der Velden still holding on to P3 in class as well. It's not the performance that we're used to seeing from this team at the moment. Last lap time was a 1:35.1. I'm not entirely sure if that's traffic induced or if he had to navigate some fellow GT3s. We'll stay on board with him a few moments longer to see what kind of lap times that he's putting down and producing. But Paul Holt in the fellow 54 car is only 1.5 seconds behind, and it looks to me that he is in a slightly better position than the 55 at this stage of the race. His lap times seem to be more consistent, although he did have an incident somewhere along the lines which we're not aware of. We did not see that, but it looks like maybe the 54 is a bit more comfortable at the circuit of Portimao at this moment in time. There's a lot of cars then going down into Sector 3 of the circuit. Number 12 is one of them, and that is the second Poland Sim Racing car. And then you have Iceberg Racing as well. Now these guys are running 8th in class, and we've just had the first car come into the pit lane, and that is for position as well. That is David Buckley in the Positive Energy car. 2 hours and 20 minutes remaining, and they've decided to change tyres and come in for a pit stop. So it'd be interesting to see if they do change drivers along with the tyres as well. So we need to get one of these teams in here, some of the drivers, to come in and say how the tyre wear, tyre degradation is. It'd be interesting to find out how well they're coping at circuit of Portimao, especially as we enter the last stages of the first stint as well. 20 minutes remaining until we get to the first hour being completed. So those tyres must be screaming, especially the front left-hand side of those cars. I don't think we'll see many double stints here this evening, as we're on board with the Black Hawk Racing car coming down into Sector 3. Down the inside of Calamity Motorsport, the 89 Bentley team just tucks it down the inside and into turn 14. Rfactor2 has been able, though, to reduce that gap between the two cars as he come across the timing line. Lap 26 has just been started. by the two teams, and it is now only 3 seconds between these two cars, or 3.8 as he, whoa, big dive down the inside of the number 89 Calamity Motorsport car there. Brave stuff from Balatsvaro. Really wants to hang on to that advantage that he's gained against the Black Hawk Racing car. And of course that means that Daniel Wisner has got to do all of that work again, as he seems to have found a bit of open air now. Means that he can use that Mazda engine to its full potential. Of course, their first showing of the season. It's all going fairly well for them at the moment. Touch wood. Don't want to give them the commentator's curse. Everything seems to be going okay so far, and that is a change for position again between Pim van Ark and the number 90 Poland Sim Racing car. So we did miss an overtake there. I thought that number 57 might have kept that position, but it looks like they're still fighting for second in GT3. Seems to have calmed down now a bit once we've refocused on them though, because there's not much action going on. The Ferrari has got a bit of a lead of half a second as he enters sector 3 now. Down into turn 14. He's got enough gap now between himself and the BMW to defend against the slipstream, as there's now 0.9 seconds between, or 0.7 seconds between the two cars as they come across the timing lines. Let's go board with Rapid Racing now, because they of course have not had the best start to this event. Mikhail Nizio in 5th place in their newly painted 13 Orca Nissan car, and they are going to be hoping that some action is going to happen up front and knock a few positions out, because they are in 2nd place in the championship and only behind by about 10 to 15 points in compared to the Max Grip Endurance team. So this result here this evening could be vital to their championship hopes, because there's only a few rounds left before we get to the 6 hours of Daytona. Of course, they still have to navigate their way around the 6 hours of Dubai, the 3 hours of Spa, and they're going to be challenging races as well. But it all comes down to the last round, of course, at Daytona at the end of April. If you are interested, if you are viewing for the first time, then please do visit our website at www.checkeredflagendurance.com. You can find all the rules and regulations on our website by clicking on the forum tab. And of course it is LMP2s and GT3s that we use in this series, and there are a few vacancies left if you are looking to join. Teams of 3 to 2 drivers, or a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 3, and circuits coming up for the rest of the season, such as Spa, Dubai and Daytona, as I've just previously mentioned. So it's a great season and good for anyone who is experienced or looking to get some experience in endurance racing, with 3 to 6 hour races. So Rapid Racing crossed the line just one last time. 135.2 was their last lap time, which is currently competitive with the Exiled Motorsport cars, however not so competitive with the front running teams. So bad news, they will need to find something in the bag to get that car back into contention. They have a gap of 14 seconds between themselves and Paul Holt in the Exiled Motorsport car, so strategy will be a key factor for the teams here. Maybe he can do something to get that Orca Nissan back into contention and possibly even onto a podium finish. Pim van Ark, though, in the 57 Ferrari has been able to extend his lead over the Poland Sim Racing car by 2 seconds now, as he comes down into turns 9 and 10. So he seems to have got the job done for now. bit of breathing space, continue to focus on those lap times and get that Ferrari back home. Only 13 minutes left in the first hour of this race, and no doubt they will soon be coming into the pits for the first round. .420 Hansa Racing car looking to get past there with Max Barkley behind the wheel. I believe we've also missed an incident between Balazs and... because he's now 10.5 seconds off the leader of this race. So he's lost about 6 seconds somewhere. Not entirely sure where, but that is not good news for the 285 car. And that also means that Rik van der Velden, only 4 seconds behind in the number 55, is going to be looking to take advantage of that as well. That's free time for this team. It's also time that the 285 car can't afford to just simply give away. And Daniel Visner, the leader of the race, has come into the pit lane. So that is Black Hawk Racing. Oh no, it's a spin! It's a spin! That is tragic news for that team. That is a major spin out at turns 13. So the number 6 demoted to 3rd place in LMP2 class. Balazs must be rubbing his hands together. That is, talk about free time. He has just basically handed the race lead over to Max Group Endurance Team. No damage done to the car, and there was no traffic around him as well when that incident happened. So, not that I saw. Looks like it's just a simple mistake of too much throttle on those worn tyres. Of course, the lap times are starting to fall back down again, because we did see 133s at the start of this race. Of course, we're now looking more at 135s by the LMP2 class. And we've just had 2 cars come into the pit lane. Paul Holt in the 54 XR Motorsport car. He decides that it's time to change tyres and get some more fuel, as is Max Barkley, Nikolai in the 58. That is a driver change for this team, as they've just come into the pits. And he's back underway again. Out the pits goes the number 58. So pit stops are beginning to show now, as we're back on board with Balazs, the new leader of LMP2. What can he do to extend the lead? 5.5 seconds over the Exile Motorsport car of Rik van der Velden. And then close behind is Daniel Visner in the number 6 Black Hawk Racing, looking to regain that lost time. And there's a very slow Paul Holt on the racing line there. He's been demoted. He's just come out the pit lanes again, and he is now P6 overall. Whoa, big sideways moment there. Cold tyres there for Paul Holt, and just a bit too eager on the throttle as he gets spun around in that Exile Motorsport Lola car. Of course, these tyres, I've driven the LMP2s around this circuit a fair bit, and one thing I do know is that cold tyres at this track are lethal. If you do not manage that throttle very carefully for the first few laps, it can be a very slippery experience, almost like driving on ice until you get some heat into those tyres. And that is exactly what's happened there to Paul Holt in the number 54, just a bit too eager on that gas pedal, and that's all it takes to spin the rear of that LMP2 car around, especially in a slow corner where there's no aerodynamic features as well. There's not enough airflow going over the car in order to keep it on track and stable. So he's certainly going to lose a few positions, and that means that the 55 is almost guaranteed 3rd place on the board. But we have a fight for 2nd place in LMP2 at the moment with the 55 and the number 6. The number 6 goes wide in order to avoid the collision between the number 55 and the 77. That is a massive collision into the last corner. There's yellow flags out at the moment. Both cars seem to get underway again. That is disastrous news for the 55. Comes straight into the pit lane to get repairs. And as I was saying, of course, that the number 55 could be in for a third place finish. It's all gone wrong instantly. Just struggling to get to the pit lane. Number 77 does continue with Victor Garrido behind the wheel of that car. Martini Racing, these guys are extremely quick in their class. Currently in P5 in GT3. Not too sure what happened there between them and the 55 though, because it seemed a bit confusing. It looked like both were hugging the racing line, and then the rear of the Chevrolet just seemed to explode and spin off circuit. So maybe we can get an insight as to what happened there. And we've just had a second DNF now. Laurence Ducati in the Endurance 6 esports car has just blown the engine, according to recent reports, and they are out of the race. So bad news for that team. That's our second DNF of this event. And Balatsvara continues to lead the way. Lap 33 is started with a 10-second lead over the rest of the field. Black Hawk Racing, of course, just avoiding the collision between the 55 and the 77, is able to continue the race, and no doubt we'll see them go toe-to-toe with the 285 in 2 hours' time. Of course, now we need to see what kind of pit strategy both teams are going to produce as they come into the last few minutes of the first hour of this event. Now, we've seen most of the GT3s come into the pit lane already. The strategy is underway, so to speak, for those guys. However, still to pit are some of the leading GT3 cars. So you've got Gregor Bulat, Pim van Ark, the second Polish Sim Racing car, and Daniel Vidamari. Still all need to conduct a pit stop. They're obviously hitting the hour on the head before they come in for new tyres and fuel as they come down into turn 1 now. And there's a 420 with Max Bartley behind the wheel, waiting for his moment to pass. Down the straight he goes. Not much of a speed advantage than I was expecting, if I'm honest. Whoa, big sideways moment there before the 420, and nearly takes out the leading GT3 car. Needs to be extremely careful. He is a leading, well, he is a LMP2. It's his responsibility to make sure he overtakes cleanly. But that must have been a scary moment for Gregor Bulat as he came down into turn 6. Still leading the way though, so everything's fine at the moment. 420 seems to be struggling a lot at this circuit at the moment, as he's just sliding all over the place with those tyres. When are the leaders going to come into the pits though? That is the question. Still 10 seconds between the 285 and Black Hawk Racing. We've also got Tom Brown. So Pulse Simulation, which is the Chevrolet Camaro, have gone way down the order now as they come out of the pit lane. 21st in class, and they must be several laps down compared to the rest of the field as well. After such an amazing performance at the 6 hours of Sebring, it seems like such a shame that they are in this position at the moment, as they've just taken the position away from Laurence Ducati. That's the second DNF, so they are in 20th place and 10th in class at the moment as they go around the circuit. Go back to the podium of a GT3 though, and it's a whole different story because the second Poland Sim Racing car is 1.7 seconds behind Pim van Ark in the exiled Motorsport Ferrari. I may be thinking that at this stage of the race, perhaps that the number 57 is starting to struggle on worn tyres compared to the BMW. There's not really much going on at the moment. We're still waiting for the leading teams to come into the pit lane. Most of the cars are going around Sector 3 and 2 at the moment, with Sector 1 being fairly light in terms of traffic. But at the moment we are just waiting for these teams to finally come in and say, you know what, I need some new tyres and some new litres of fuel. And of course we will be expecting some driver changes at this stage of the race as well. However, they can still go for another hour if need be. 2 seconds still separating Pim van Ark and the Polish Sim Racing car as I come across the timing lines again. Last lap time 1:44.5 for the BMW. The Ferrari 1:44.7. So at the moment Pim van Ark has a slight advantage at this stage of the race, although he makes a small mistake coming into turn 6 because we saw a bit of sideways action there from the Ferrari. And just lost a bit of time, now 0.12 seconds between the two cars. And he's got to navigate the Max Grip Endurance team's car as well, make sure he doesn't tap the rear bumper of that Orica Nissan, the leading LMP2. As he comes down into Sector 3. I don't believe we haven't had a pit stop from most of the LMP2 teams either. The only ones that have gone into the pits is Rik van der Velden, of course, which we saw have that massive collision with the number 77, and the Iceberg Racing team, which is the number 58 car. So the rest of the LMP2 field has not gone into the pit lane. And as I say that, Paul Holt has also just sprung up. Sorry, he has also gone into the pits. So the two Exile Motorsport cars and the Iceberg Racing team have conducted their pit stops. They still need to do a driver change. They're both still in charge of the car as we enter the second hour of this race. But we still need to see what Balazs Farah and Daniel Wisner are going to do, along with Rapid Racing. Rapid Racing now promoted into 3rd place at the moment. They still need to come into the pits though, so that may change because Rik van der Velden and Paul Holt are going to overtake them after the pit stop has occurred. And David Buckley says Positive Energy Racing has also made a pit stop. Thank you for that information. So also Pascal Chapon currently in charge of that car. And 12 seconds off the number 58 Iceberg Racing team. So they're looking for position as well. Of course, that's all going to be done through raw pace as we enter the second hour of this 3-hour event. And of course the 58 has already conducted a pit stop as well. So what can Pascal Chapon do in order to regain that position? Last lap time from Positive Energy 1:36.5, and then Iceberg Racing a 1:40.5. So that must be behind GT3 traffic. I can't see how he can lose so much time. As he enters the last few corners. Okay, so the number 90 Fairplay Sim Racing car is into the pit lane. That's one of the top 5 cars at the moment. They're currently in P4, so we can expect Paul Holt and Rik van der Velden to charge back into position. Yep, he's just come across the line now. So Paul Holt goes back into P4 and Rik van der Velden also into P5. So they begin their recovery drive as we speak. Also we have Pim van Ark into the pit lane. That is the Ferrari 488, and also the second Poland Sim Racing car. They decide it's time for some new tyres and fuel as well. Overshot the pit box there a bit with the number 7 BMW, but still able to get the job done. Still within the window, so no issues there for that team. When is the leader going to come in though? Because the Black Hawk Racing car appears to be losing some pace at this stage of the race. 136.6 was the last lap time by the Lola, and then you have the Max Grip Endurance team who are still putting down high 134s. So they need to do something if they're going to be able to stay in the game, especially with 2 hours remaining. Only 2 pit stops in this event, maybe 3 depending on how they can save the fuel, but I doubt that's the case as he still goes for another lap. 1 hour and 57 minutes remaining and 39 laps complete by the Max Grip Endurance team, and that means that they've definitely got enough fuel to last them just over an hour, which means they are going to be going for a 2-stop strategy. But when is Black Hawk Racing going to come into the pits? So they enter the pit lane now. So be interesting to see what can be done for this team as Michael Nizio in Rapid Racing goes up the order and into P2. This is the second LMP2 team that has not yet pitted. So what the game is now is how far can you go into the first stint on those tyres before you have to come into the pit lane and get some new tyres. It is a balancing game between tyre wear, fuel usage and pit stop time. Of course, each team wants to stay in the pit lane for as little time as possible. Of course, Rapid Racing 21 seconds behind Black Sparrow and the 285 car as he goes 2 wide with Iceberg Racing. That is a blue flag situation. They're not racing for position at this stage of the race. Right, okay, so we have had driver changes for the number 57 because Chris Gonzalez has got into the 57 Ferrari. And then Alicio Filito in Team RSI have gone up into 3rd place in class. I'm not sure if they've had a pit stop. No, they have, because Daniel Vidamari was in charge of that car. So Team RSI move up the order. And then you have the second BMW as well with Mikola. And he is been demoted by 1 position into 4th in class. So not good news for them at this stage of the race, but they still can gain it back. It's not over yet. Also with the driver change is Black Hawk Racing. They've decided to switch drivers, and that means they meet the target for completing their 1 hour's minimum driving time, provided that they get back out the car in an hour's time. That's not an issue for that team anymore. And then Rapid Racing now take the lead of the race. They're still going round and round this track as they start lap 40 of this event. And that's a car round. That is Team AMBU Racing. And I'm not too sure which that is. Louis Marino manages to get back underway in the number 61 Ferrari 488. But loss of position there as he goes down to 18th overall. Bad news for the Ferrari team. I'm not sure if he's come into the pit lane as of yet. Yes, he has. So he's on new tyres, new fuel. And perhaps we're just seeing another incident where he just didn't take it easy on that first few laps, perhaps. Also in the pit lane, and a driver change conducted. Number 90, Fair Play Sim Racing car, just giving way to Rapid Racing as they come down into the hairpin now. But in the box we have Matthias Nochel, or Knockel, who's just got out of the car, and we're going to drag him in for a few words of wisdom. Welcome to the commentary box, Matthias. So you've just come out of the number 90 car. Tell us how your stint was.
Well, it was a pretty good stint overall. I was able to take some advantage at the chaos at the start and take some positions, and then it was just, you know, relaxed driving, nose the tires a bit until the driver change.
So, you have moved up in the order. You're currently P7 in class. Oscar Alvarez is currently in the car. What kind of challenges is he going to be up against now as he enters the second hour of this race?
Well, it's a pretty tricky track. It's way more fun than Sebring, but it's also as tricky, I think. So I think the track will be a big challenge, and I think he can take maybe the position of Max Barkley.
What kind of tyre wear are you guys experiencing in those LMP2s? Of course, Portimao is there's a lot of fast right-hand corners. How does that affect the tyre wear on the left-hand side of the car?
Yeah, you have a pretty high wear on the left front, of course. So I think that's at the end it was a difference of around 10% or something. So that one was pretty down at the end, but it's still drivable.
So no chance of double stinting the tyres by any of the teams this evening, perhaps? Not even on the inside tyres?
I don't think you can, at least if you're using softs. I think you can double stint if you're using mediums.
Oh really? Okay, so definitely some strategic options there for you guys in the LMP2 category. Do you think you can progress further up the order in your current position?
I think P6 is definitely a possibility, and you never know what happens up front. There's still almost 2 hours to go.
Yeah, it's a long race ahead, and of course you've got a lot of GT3 cars everywhere, all over the circuit as well. How are you finding managing the traffic at the circuit of Portimao? It's a fairly wide track, but it can tighten up fairly quickly, especially going into the faster corners. How did you get around that challenge?
Yeah, well, I was just not taking any risk and being pretty patient, especially the combination in the middle sector is pretty hard to get by GT traffics. The last fast right-hander is a very good spot to go just on the outside and overtake the GT3s. Yeah, and I was barely avoiding one GT3 spinning out in front of me, but that's just how it is.
Okay, well thank you very much for coming to the commentary box with me, because we do have a battle on our hands in the LMP2 class between Sean Jacobs in Rapid Racing and the 285 of Max Grip Endurance team, as Balazs takes the lead of the race once again after the pit stops have been completed, and Rapid Racing get demoted into second place with 0.5 seconds deficit as they come into turns 7 and 8. Great stuff here at the 3 hours of Portimao. Sorry Matthias. I wish you guys the best of luck now that the overtake has occurred. Best of luck for the last 1 hour and 50 minutes of the race, and fingers crossed you can get further up the order before the checkered flag.
Yeah, thank you. We'll see if Portimao takes some victims.
Well, we don't want to wish bad luck on everyone else. Usually it's me that does that. Commentators curse and all.
Yeah, I know.
If you need anyone wishing good luck or want me to say that they're doing a great job, then just slide a 20 under the door, and I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, let's hope everyone gets to the finish there, but it's a challenging track, and it can take some victims.
Alright, thanks very much, and best of luck, buddy.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Okay, so that was one of the drivers from the number 90 Fair Play Sim Racing car, Matthias Knockel, in the commentary box with us there for a few moments. Of course, he was able to witness the battle between Sean Jacobs in the Rapid Racing car, who appears to be losing a fair bit of ground as they come onto their first few flying laps of the circuit. 1.8 seconds between the two teams, and then the interesting thing is that the Black Hawk Racing car is 17 seconds down off the leading LMP2 car. So whether or not that's a different strategy, or whether or not we missed an incident that they had within the last few minutes, I do not know, but they have lost a lot of time compared to the two leading cars. And we also have Paul Holt in the number 54 Exile Motorsport car, who's only a second down compared to the number 6 as well. So fighting going on in the LMP2 category, and only 10 minutes into the second hour as Paul Holt takes a lot of curb on the inside of turn 6. Probably eager to get that car back onto the podium after his spin in the first few moments of the race. Let's move down back to GT3 because we have a battle between Alessio Filito and the Poland Sim Racing car with Mikolai and that number 7 painted BMW. Team RSI not as quick here compared to the BMW. However, that does not mean they're going to give the position away easily to Poland Sim Racing. Of course, Alessio Filito leading the championship in the GT3 category at the moment. He needs to get a podium finish here to make sure that the number 7 BMW doesn't take full advantage of this. A massive dive bomb there from the number 7 Poland Sim Racing car. Manages to just do a light touch on the rear bumper of that Bentley Continental car, but no damage done. Nobody gets spun out, luckily, and both able to continue the race. Clearly the BMW thinks that he is the faster car, getting a bit impatient as they come down into Sector 3 and looking to take this position and get back on to the podium. We also have Chris Gonzalez, who has now stepped in to the Exile Motorsport Ferrari 488 as they come across the line just now. But back to those two cars as they come down onto the main straight. Is the BMW going to have enough slipstream to get the job done here? Is Alessio Filito going to have to go defensive as the Bentley's pulling away like a train? He looks down the inside into turn 1, but not enough. He's not close enough to get the job done, and tucks right in back behind the Bentley Continental team and stays in P4. Massive sideways moment there for Alessio Filito as he comes down into turn 4. Up into turn 5, manages to regain control of the large Bentley chassis. And also you've got the 420 in the background there. Seems to be positioning himself in between all these GT3 battles as he slices his way between the number 7 and 23 car. And side by side as he comes down into Sector 2 though. That's not where he wants to be. The number 7 car probably giving him the biggest evil look in the world right now because he's impeding his chances of getting onto the back of the number 23 Bentley at the moment. Now the 420 needs to get past the number 23 fairly quickly. Goes down the inside into Sector 3, and that means that the number 7 BMW is right back onto the rear bumper of that Italian team. Alessio Filito is going to have to go defensive as they come down into the last few corners of Portimao. Into the fast swooping right hander of turn 15 and onto the main straight they go. The BMW once again in a position to take third place in GT3 with 1 hour and 45 minutes to go. Is he going to be able to get the job done as they use the slipstream down the back straight? Oh, sorry, I mean the main straight. And into turn 1 they go again. The BMW's got the small amount of track on the inside line, but not able to get the job done again. Alessio Filito just hangs on in there, and a massive collision between Alessio Filito and the number 7 car. That is a massive tank slap between the BMW and the rear bumper of that Bentley car. Is any damage going to be? Is there going to be any damage as a result of that? The BMW seems to be very late on the brakes compared to the Bentley car, and he's got a bit of an undercut as he comes down into turn 6 now on the exit of the hairpin. Too wide as they go into the third sector. However, Alessio Filito is going to have the inside line, but the BMW is going to come down the inside into turn 8 into Samson corner and gets the job done. Got to be very careful not to squeeze Alessio Filito out there. Still too wide as they come into Craig Jones. That's turn 10 and up into Portimao. He's going to have to concede the position. Rapid Racing go very close to the two Bentley teams. I thought for a moment there the number 23 was going to go higher up in terms of the tarmac and collide with the number 13 Rapid Racing car, but manages to just get away with it. No damage done, and that has caused Alessio Filito a fair bit of time as well, because he had to give way to Rapid Racing in order to get through the corner. Couldn't use the full racing line and get that Bentley back up to speed again, and that means that he has got a 1 second gap now to the Poland Sim Racing car. Number 90 Fair Play Sim Racing also go by down the main straight. Nice easy overtake there for that team. Doesn't cost them any time whatsoever. And if we look at the rest of the LMP2 field as well, Sean Jacobs now has a 5-second deficit to Balazs in the leading LMP2. So Rapid Racing, although in second place at the moment, are slowly falling behind the leaders of this race. And then in third and rounding out the podium is Paul Holt. So we missed an overtake there between the number 54 and Black Hawk Racing. Last lap times between those two are fairly evenly matched, so these two teams are doing pretty much identical lap times at this stage of the race. But of course that can all change in the next hour or so when it comes down to the last sprint session of this event. Not good news for Black Hawk Racing though. They had such a strong start to this race. The first half an hour to 45 minutes they were setting down the fastest lap times of the race and were extending their lead over the rest of the LMP2 field. But it all went wrong when they had a spin coming into turn 14, and that sent them spiraling down the order into P3 and 4. And ever since they've done their pit stop, it has not been the same since. So can they do anything to get back into the podium positions over the next hour and 40 minutes or so? Comes across the line. Lap 48 of this race has just begun as the teams try to navigate the traffic once again, and we have had another DNF, and that is the Lamborghini Huracan of WM Motorsport. Bad news for that team. That's their third retirement in a row after Bahrain and Paul Ricard. Clearly something is wrong with that car. On board we're now with Balazs. Expecting Daniel Potter to get into the car for the last hour of this race. Daniel Potter of course being slightly faster in my personal opinion than Varro. But, however, Varro is extremely consistent with his lap times. 1:35.6 as he came across the line last lap. Let's have a look, see what he does for this one. .1:35.6 again, so pretty much identical lap times there from the Oracle Nissan driver as he comes down into lap 49 of this race. That does mean that Sean Jacobs, though, is within 5 seconds as he comes across the timing line in Rapid Racing, the number 13 car. 1:35.9 for him in that car as well. So it's not as fast as the Match Grip Endurance team, but it's not that far off the lap-to-lap pace either. So if he can manage the traffic better than the 285, then he may be in a position to regain some of that time back. Right, we are approaching the halfway point of this race, and we're going to go for a quick commercial break and then we'll go for a quick commercial break, and then we will come back to the action for the 3 hours of Portimao, round 7 of the World Sports Car Challenge. I will see you all in a few moments after these adverts. Hello and welcome back to the action. 1 hour and 35 minutes remaining in round 7 of the World Sports Car Challenge, the 3 hours of Portimao, and currently leading the way is Balasfaro in the Max Grip Endurance team, the 285 Orica Nissan. Last lap time of 1:35.1, and he is charging away from the rest of the field with a 9-second lead over Sean Jacobs in the Rapid Racing car. So they're currently leading the championship at the moment with 125 points, and after a disastrous race 2 weeks ago at the 6 hours of Sebring, after having an engine failure, Max Grip Endurance team eager to retake the initiative and charge away with the championship once more. But close behind is Rapid Racing. They are close in terms of points and in terms of track position here tonight. 9 seconds again separating both the teams, and still one more pit stop to be played out in terms of strategic positioning, so they could still gain that time back through traffic management or through strategy. It is yet to be seen, but we'll soon find out because there's only 1.5 hours remaining. And we've just had a yellow flag come out on circuit. I believe one of the cars did go wide but has been able to continue since then. I believe that is the number 18 car, and that is the 88 Titan Squad vehicle. Very funky looking car. BMW M6 as it just retakes to the track. Finds its feet once again and continues the race. And coming into GT3, Chris Gonzalez, which is the leading GT3 car, has been promoted. That's a very strange thing to see, because the number 7 BMW, which is the Poland Sim Racing car, has gone down the order. So I'm not too sure what's happened there. Just have a look at the pit stops, make sure that he hasn't had to come into the pit lane since then, and that is no. So Chris Gonzalez officially leads GT3 in the number 57 Exile Motorsport car. That is a lead of 8.8 seconds between himself and that BMW M6 as he comes across the timing line just now. So perhaps we can get an insight as to what happened to Adam in that Podium Sim Racing car later on in this event. But it looks like for now the Ferrari leads the way in this event. And then in third place in GT3 we have the second Podium Sim Racing car that is currently being driven by Mikolai Maliki. Very nicely painted BMWs these. Of course, they're both taking the number 7 paint scheme for this evening because the number 90 car did not load properly. So they will be taking an alternative paint scheme for the next round. But a similar kind of paint scheme, just exchange the white for the red. And there you go, you have the two Podium Sim Racing paint schemed cars. So that is the current top podium for GT3s. And then going back to LMP2 as well, you've got the Black Hawk Racing team currently going round 8 seconds behind Rapid Racing, and have retaken their position back from the number 54 of Exiled Motorsport. So Paul Holt still in charge of this car, has been demoted once again. He's been on to third place, he's been demoted, and it seems to be going back and forth in that manner. And it looks like we've got an incident into the last corner, and that is between Oscar Alvarez in the Rapid Racing car. Seems to get back underway again, and that is contact between the number 88 and the number 90. So we didn't get to see what happened between those two cars there, but it looks like it was a nasty collision between those two vehicles. Fingers crossed neither of them suffered damage as a result, as the number 90 tucks it back down the inside, and another collision between the two cars as the number 88 gets pushed wide off the tarmac. And down into turns 5 they go. Both able to continue as the number 90 goes wide. There seems to be damage there to that Orica Nissan LMP2 car, as he manages to just wrestle it back under control there as he enters turn 6. So bad news there for the number 90. They're still in 6th place though. They're looking to get up into P5 after we had their teammate in the commentary box with us a few moments ago. But the question is, can they do it? He's got a deficit of, well, they've got an entire lap deficit against Rick van der Velden in the number 55. And of course that team is extremely competitive and in with a shout of maybe getting a podium finish here this evening. Of course, a lot of the top teams are present with us this evening. And we're officially about to meet the halfway mark of this race. 1 hour and 30 minutes remaining at the 3 hours of Portimao. Nobody appears to have an answer at this stage of the race though for the leading car, 285. With 12-second gap over the Rapid Racing car driven by Sean Jacobs. Now the question is Michael Nizio going to be getting back into the car in the next 30 minutes or so? We know that Michael Nizio is extremely quick in this car. Sean Jacobs is the guest driver for this team at the moment. And of course, if he stays in the car with his current lap times of 136.3, that's not going to be good enough to hold back the cars that are behind as well. So the Black Hawk Racing car and the Exiled Motorsport car are still quicker in terms of lap-to-lap pace compared to what currently Sean Jacobs is able to put down on the table. I've had 4 DNFs now, so Joshua Jones has connection issues. That's Eidos Motorsport out of the race. Although he can still rejoin, so I'm not entirely sure why he hasn't done that. They can still rejoin after the race to continue once his connection issues have been resolved. But it looks like it's game over for the 00 Lincoln Park AMG. following the 420 car. And I've just realised that DR Motorsport aren't with us anymore. DR Motorsport were the guys that were the new team. They were in qualifying, but they seem to have disappeared off the face of the earth for the race. So not too sure what happened there. However, there is going to be a fight for second place in LMP2 in a few moments' time, because Rapid Racing are being caught by Black Hawk Racing, who are just behind there. 1.6 seconds between the two teams as he goes down the inside of the number 77 Martini Racing car. Also, bad news for the leading GT3 car. Chris Gonzalez goes into the pit lane for some reason. Not too sure why, but that means that the lead of the race goes back to the Poland cars. Adam leads the way with his teammate close behind by 4 seconds as they come down into Sector 3. So, looks like Poland Sim Racing are once again in a position where they can get a 1-2 finish for their two cars. But let's go back to the fight between LMP2. Just thought I'd give you that quick update in GT3 before this battle gets underway. 0.9 seconds now, so Black Hawk Racing are on a charge. Last lap time was a 1:34.2, but Sean Jacobs only managed a 1:37. That must have been with GT3 traffic, and that's Pascal Chapon off in the gravel in the distance there. That is the P8 LMP2 car, and that is bad news for them as well. Seems to be able to get underway once again, but we'll stay on board with the 13 and 6 cars as they're about to fight on lap 57 at the 3 hours of Portimao. Massive contact there, that's not good news. Black Hawk Racing just give a love tap onto the back of the number 13 and concedes the position. He knows that he's done wrong, and he lets the Rapid Racing car retake that position. Of course, Sean Jacobs seems to be fairly off pace to the number 6, so he probably just got caught out of the braking zone there. Was a bit surprised about where Sean Jacobs was starting to apply the brakes. Right, okay, Black Hawk Racing in the slipstream now, coming down the main straight. Is it enough to get the job done? Picks down the inside and the side by side as it comes to turn 1, and massive move there by Kasabakis and gets past into second place in LMP2. And of course that means that Rapid Racing get demoted down into P3, which is not good for their championship hopes. They're currently second in the standings in LMP2 at the moment, and they want to extend that and catch Max Grip Endurance Team. But that doesn't look like it's going to happen here tonight. Of course, Max Grip Endurance Team still charging away. 18 seconds now compared to the rest of the LMP2 teams. Tucks it down the inside there of the Poland Sim Racing car, and nice job done. So 17.6 seconds advantage over Black Hawk Racing. They need to keep that pace up if they're going to be able to take victory here for round 7. As it comes down across the timing line to begin lap 59 of the race. Last lap time was 1:35.2 there, but done by Balazs. And then we have the Black Hawk Racing car. Of course, he has just been fighting with Sean Jacobs in the Rapid Racing car. So what kind of lap time is he going to be able to produce as he crosses the line? Several times apparently. 1:34.6, that's almost an entire second, or 0.8 seconds faster than the leading car. So bad news for Max Grip Endurance Team. If he can keep this momentum up, then they may be in a bad position in a few hours' time. Martin Pater says, good evening to you, sir. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're enjoying the race so far. Okay, so Tony Jansen is in the pit lane. That is the 54 Exile car. And Fair Play Sim Racing continue by as if nothing's happened, and that means that they get their P5 at this time or moment in the race. there's no way that Tony Jansen can go to the end of this race with 1 hour and 23 minutes remaining. They will need to come back into the pit stop. So, Fair Play Sim Racing get promoted into the top 5, but will they finish there? That is the question. Can they continue and finish the job? Oscar Alvaro is currently in charge of that car. Not the fastest team on the grid, but certainly consistent and able to put on a good show when it comes down to toe-to-toe battles, and definitely one to watch out for when it comes to strategic overtakes as well, because they know their stuff when it comes to fuel usage and tyre wear. So good show by that team. John Jacobs continues to fall down the order. It's a sad sight to see for the number 13 Rapid Racing car. That's a new paint scheme for this round. They were using the number 24 stock skin, but they seem to have created their own livery for this round, and it does look very nice in their red and white mixture. Of course, getting a third place at Portimao is not the end of the championship for them, but it will hurt their chances of catching the 285 car. Of course, every little helps, as the saying goes. Thanks, Tesco's. Just trying to look down on the live timing board at the moment. Cars seem to be fairly spread out. We've had 5 DNFs so far. That's a new one, Diego Lopez, and that is the 88. So that is 3. Oh, sorry, all the DNFs so far are GT3s. So the category is getting butchered, quite literally, which means obviously that it's easier for a win for the front-running teams. It means there's only 7 GT3s currently left. And that is... Oh, Tony Jansen's just DNF'd as well. That is the 54 Exiled Motorsport car. They've just DNF'd. What is that issue? They just went out of the pit lane. Last time we saw them, they were just doing their driver change. But that is a further DNF as well. Whole simulation still going strong. That is Tom Brown in the charge of that car. Of course, they had bad luck at the start of this race and a major collision with the number 55. That sent them way down the order in terms of GT3, but still carrying on, and 7th in class. So it just goes to show that if you just keep going, you can end up with a fairly decent result. So back to the lead of the race then. Balazs continuing to put down decent lap times. 1:34.3 was the last one on the table as he comes across the timing line again to begin lap 62. What's it going to be? 1:34.9. So very decent pace. Black Hawk Racing 18 seconds down the order. What can they bring to the table? He needs to be hitting 1:34s if he wants to gain time against the leading car. And it is a 1:34.3, so 0.6 seconds faster there by Black Hawk Racing that lap. He needs to keep the pace up though. He needs to find clean air, and looking on live timing, it looks like he's got to navigate the iceberg car, and then he's got a few GT3s just up the road. But other than that, he should have some fed clean air, because the Max Grip Endurance team are just entering Sector 2 now. And you've got the 2 GT3 cars that have just gone round the hairpin of Turn 6 before he can continue the charge and regain some lost time. A lot of curbage there by that Mazda-powered Lola. Must have very soft springs in order to do that. Some of the curbing here at Portimao can be extremely aggressive and unforgiving. Okay, so in the waiting room we have Tony Jansen, He's just experiencing some issues with the 54. It looks like he's speaking to the live marshals now, because it looks like they may be able to continue this race. So we'll leave him in the waiting room just a little while longer to make sure that he knows what he's doing and can sort the 54 car out. Last lap by Rfactor2 in response to Black Hawk Racing, 134.2 by that team, and then 134.6 by Black Hawk Racing. So they've exchanged positions, and it looks like the gap has now gone back up to 18.9 seconds. Of course, the Black Hawk Racing car trying to navigate his way through the GT3 traffic, not the ideal situation to be in. 1 hour and 17 minutes remaining in this race. We're entering the last few chances that these teams have to play out a strategic move to gain some time against their other teams. Let's have a look back into GT3 though, because Alessio Filito is in 3rd place at the moment. He's been demoted because he was in a position where he could be getting a 2nd place victory, or sorry, 2nd place position for this event. And then of course the bad news for the day is that Chris Gonzalez, the exiled motorsport driver, the team that was leading in the start of the 2nd hour of this race, has sadly gone down into 4th place. After several, or sorry, 5th place even, after having several issues in the pit lane. And that means that they move down the order and out of contention of the lead of this race. Unless it was on purpose, but I doubt it, because they need to carry out one more pit stop. Just looking on the live timing, we may have a battle on our hands between Rapid Racing and Rick van der Velden in the number 55. You can see that Exiled Motorsport Lola car in the background there, gaining time on Sean Jacobs. Last lap time between these two cars, 1:33.6 for Rick van der Velden and 1:37 for Sean Jacobs in the Rapid Racing. So that team definitely in trouble as we enter the last hour of this race, and about to lose the podium position for LMP2. What can he do though to defend that position? He needs to respond to the lap times that Rick van der Velden is putting down. If not, then Rapid Racing could face losing more points in their bid to chase down the championship leaders. Of course, Rick van der Velden and the number 55 are currently 4th in the LMP2 championship at the moment, just behind the Hansa Racing car. So every podium finish that they get, they haven't actually finished outside of the podium for a single event so far. And it looks like if they continue with their current pace, they may be in a position to take 3rd place again this season. Looks like Max Grip Endurance Team also putting down some new lap times. 1:34.1 was the last lap, and then 1:34.5 was Black Hawk Racing. So they're extending their lead once again as it goes up to 20-second gap between the two cars. But we'll keep our eyes on the number 13 at the moment. Going to go on board with Rick van der Velden now on the TV cockpit cam. Oh, sorry, we'll go inside rather, for a few laps. Of course, Portimao has a lot of elevation change. It's a really interesting circuit to race on. And a new lap time there by Rfactor2, 1:33.4. Obviously low fuel loads and I would have thought that his tyres would have been fairly exhausted going past all these fast right-hand corners, but it appears that it's still enough grip in those tyres to get down the new fastest lap. So the number 55 trying to chase down Rapid Racing as it comes across the timing line and on to lap 67. Last lap time from both cars 1:34.1, and Sean Jacobs is a 1:35.5, so it's 1.5 seconds quicker there by Rick van der Velden as he comes down into turn 1. Massive speed as he holds the 4th gear in place and down into turns 4 and 5. Got to be gentle on the throttle there as you eke over the brow of this hill, manage the elevation change and continue the charge down onto the back straight. Heavy on the brakes as you see the cones on the left hand side and into the braking zone as the number 55 goes very sideways there into the hairpin of turn 6. Another fast right hand, double right hand kink as I come over the brow of the hill once again. You've got to be very careful. Of course, the elevation change makes the front of the car very unstable as he comes down into Portimao, which is turn 11. And now he will be in a position within the next few moments to fight for 3rd place in the LMP2 category. 0.7 seconds now separate them as they come down into turn 15, the last corner of the Portimao circuit. He will be getting the slipstream off the back of that Orcanisson now as he comes into lap 68, and wow, AMB Racing on the inside line of turn 1 manages to just navigate his way around that obstacle without losing any time to Rapid Racing. It will be time to conduct driver changes in a short while. Now Rick van der Velden has been in the car for since the start of the race. He will need to get out and concede the seat to his teammate, which is Cliff van der Vin. If we just have a look on the pit stop widget, he has indeed conducted 1 pit stop, which means he will need to get out of the car, and that means that Cliff van der Vin will do the last hour of this race. Now Cliff van der Vin is extremely quick as well as is his teammate. Of course, both able to put down extremely fast lap times in that 55 Lola car, but I fear that they are too far down the order or too far back from the leading LMP2 cars to contend for a lead here. They might be able to fight for 2nd place if some bad luck strikes the number 6 Black Hawk Racing car. However, it looks like 3rd place may be the most sensible option to predict at the moment, as they come down 0.4 seconds now between themselves and Rapid Racing. Sean Jacobs must be desperate to try and hang on to this podium position at the moment. 1 hour and 9 minutes remaining and we have a fight for 3rd place in LMP2. Slipstream still in effect, but not in close enough to get the job done there as they re-enter turn 1 at the start of lap 68 of this race. Much tighter line there by Rick van der Velden as he comes down into turn 5. Over the brow of the hill he goes and into the slipstream. Is he going to be close enough to get that car down the inside into the hairpin? And that's a no, not close enough just yet. Hugs the back of that Orcanisson and waits for his moment to pass. He's going to have to time this perfectly if he wants to make it a nice, clean and quick pass. And there's a massive mistake there by the Black Hawk Racing car. That is a very slow moving Lola on the brow of turn 9. That is Samson Corner that he spun out at, and that means that Rapid Racing is in with a chance of fighting for position. We've now got a 3-way battle for P2 in class, and that is something I definitely wasn't about to predict. And Max Grip Endurance team must be rubbing their hands together, because that means that they now have a 30-second lead over the rest of the LMP2 field. But 1, 2, 3 LMP2 cars are within 1 second of one another, with 1 hour and 8 minutes of this race remaining. Down the main straight they go. Lap 69 begins, and into the first corner. Maximum commitment from all these drivers, heavy on the brakes from all of the cars, and the last lap time was a 1:50 from the Black Hawk car because of the spin, and that means that they have lost 14 seconds compared to the rest of the LMP2s on that last lap, and that's going to cost them a lot when it comes down to the pit stop strategy in the next few minutes or so. Now, what Rick van der Velde needs to do is to overtake Rapid Racing as fast as possible in order to attach himself onto the number 6. Of course, he has the slipstream of the Oreca Nissan ahead, but if he can get past now, that means that he won't lose any time to the Black Hawk Racing car. Can he get the job done? Now, we know he has quicker lap times. His last lap was a 1:36 along with Sean Jacobs. He got stuck behind Rapid Racing when they were trying to navigate their way around the Black Hawk Racing Lola. Seems to have tucked himself back in behind, though, for the time being. 0.6 seconds separating them, and Sean Jacobs has already lost 1.7 seconds to the second place LMP2 car. Back to the cockpit view as he comes down the main straight. Is there going to be enough of a slipstream there to take advantage? Maximum revs. Look at the car's engine is screaming away at 271 kilometers an hour as he enters turn 1. Heavy on the brakes and down into 4th gear. Nice management of... Oh, we've got a yellow flag. Where is that? That is going into... That is on the main straight, which is a very strange place. No, that's not. That's Joshua Jones. But it's saying that he's not DNF'd, which is a bit strange. He seems to have bugged out onto the track for some reason. So Joshua Jones has just re-entered the pit garage, like a miracle. Don't we just love magic? And it looks like he's causing the yellow flag, because I'm looking on my live timing now, and it has just disappeared as he enters the garage box. So it looks like there was a bit of an issue there with Rfactor2 recognising that he is about to continue the race, because it actually showed the car, the number 19 place car, in the middle of the main straight, which is a bit scary, if I'm honest. I thought we was going to have an incident on our hands as the cars come into turn 1 now. Max Grip Endurance team go very wide, trying to avoid that AMG and just navigate themselves around Gregor Spilat, or sorry, Adam. And Rick van der Velde has taken that position. Yep, I did switch at the wrong moment, didn't I? Trying to look at a yellow flag, and it wasn't even a legitimate yellow flag. That is extremely annoying, but Rick van der Velde has taken P3 in class, so apologies for that. We didn't get to see that, and it looks like there may have been an incident between the two of them, because Rapid Racing are just entering the main straight now, so it might have been a mistake there by Sean Jacobs as opposed to an actual overtake for position. But that does promote the 55 into 3rd place, and they can now begin their attack on Black Hawk Racing. If they get a 2nd place here for this event, it will help their championship hopes out a lot. They only have around 84 points compared to the leading team, who are going to be on 150 points provided they finish in their current position. But who knows, in a few races time they may be in with a shot of winning the championship. They have finished on the podium for literally every single race thus far. I'm very surprised that they haven't taken a victory as of yet. Martin says that the 13 made a mistake and spun in front of the 55, so thank you for that information. Okay, so the 55 comes into the pit lane. That means that they're going to be conducting their driver change. Now, for those of you that don't watch the series or aren't aware of the rules and regulations, you have to have a minimum of 2 drivers partake in each of the events. And having said that as well, they need to complete 1 hour's driving time over the course of the race after they step into the vehicle. So in comes Rick van der Velden into the pit box. He goes, and we're expecting for it to go up onto the jacks as it does behind the barrier, out of view. That's very helpful, thank you cameraman. But it will go up onto the jacks for new tyres, a new fuel tank, and that means that Cliff van der Vin is going to be getting into the car for the last hour or so. That also means that Blasvaro just goes across the line with the new fastest lap, 1:33.065 on the board, ladies and gents. That is astonishing performance there by the Max Grip Endurance team driver. 39 seconds advantage over Black Hawk Racing, the next car down for position. When are they going to come into the pit lane is the question. Now Daniel Potu is probably going to be going on a slightly lighter fuel tank compared to his teammate. We've had a fair few DNFs on the board at the moment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 DNFs for this round of the championship. And we're just coming up to the second round of pit stops for this event. Rick van der Velden is still in the pit lane at the moment. Oh, he's gone back out. That's very strange. Rick van der Velden is still in charge of the number 55. He's continued back round the track, and they haven't actually done a driver change, which is very confusing. He still has 5 minutes to complete that without disqualifying the number 55 or ruining their chances of a finishing without being disqualified. So issues here for the teams and their driver changing abilities. Not sure if the 55 is even able to re-enter the pit lane, but he will need to do so if he's going to continue the race. He continues anyway, goes across the timing line to begin lap 74 of this event. And that means that they are now in P4. So bad news for the 55. They are going to have to re-enter the pit lane to get their driver change done. But Oscar Alvarez in the number 90 enters the pit lane, or is just coming out at the moment. So that is his last pit stop conducted. It means that they meet all the regulation requirements and they can continue for the last 59 minutes or so. And currently in P5 as well. So it's a good result for those guys there. Then you have Christopher Winter, who is 8 seconds down from the number 90 car, beginning their recovery drive. They're currently 7th in class, and they've also completed their pit stop, so they will be looking to take that position away if they can. And then we have a fight on our hands between Pascal Chapon and the Iceberg Racing car. That is the number 58 as he comes down. This is for the last 2 positions in LMP2 for this round, 7th and 8th in class, and he's 3.2 seconds behind Pascal Chapon in the Positive Energy cars. He goes a bit sideways there coming into turn 4. Max Grip Endurance team have decided that it is time to come into pit lane, and that means that Black Hawk Racing take the lead of this race. They do have a 40-second deficit to the leading LMP2 team, and they still need to come into the pit themselves for some new tyres and fuel. So when are they going to decide to come in, and how much are they going to take? 58 minutes remaining. We're finally into the last stint of this 3-hour race. Sean Jacobs also decides to come into the pits. That's Rapid Racing into the pit lane. And what are they going to do? Jacks go up as predicted. New tyres, some more fuel to keep them going. And the question is Sean Jacobs going to stay in the car, or is Mikhail Nizio going to step back into or behind that Orica Nissan? Number 90 gets back underway with Oscar Alvarez behind the wheel, and that is a very strange situation because we just saw Oscar Alvarez in the number 90 go into the pit lane a lap before, so very strange circumstances there for the Fair Play Sim Racing car. But he goes back onto the track limits once again to continue the race. That means that the 420 Hansa Racing car is promoted to 5th place. So very strange there. Okay, so where is Black Hawk Racing? They've decided to come into the pit lane now. So that's the leading LMP2 currently. And then you've got Daniel Potter in charge of the Max Grip Endurance car. He's just coming down into Sector 3 now. So he's definitely going to retake the lead of this race without any issues. He's got at least 40 seconds to play with in terms of track position. And Chris Gonzalez is moving back up the order as all of the other GT3 cars re-enter the pit lane. He's back into 3rd in class. That means that Daniel Vidamari in Team RSI have been demoted from the podium spot, and that's bad news for their championship hopes at the moment. They still need to, well, they're only 6 seconds off Chris Gonzalez in the number 57. So they can still fight for position. So it's not over yet, as wow, the Bentley goes really deep into the hairpin of turn 6 and wrestles the car back under control for the exit. It's going to cost him a fair bit of time though, as those tyres get some temperature back into them. But Daniel Potter retakes the lead of the race, which isn't really a surprise to us. They're going to lead the way pretty much for the last 58 minutes, I presume, provided nothing else goes wrong. And the 55 needs to make a driver change for this lap because they are about to go across the timing line and they have not conducted their driver change. So that means that they do not meet the regulations. 55 minutes and 24 seconds remaining. That was their last chance to come into the pit lane to conduct their driver swap, and Rick van der Velden has been behind that car pretty much for the entire time since the checkered flag, or the green flag rather. So that means that the 55 will suffer a disqualification as a result of not meeting the regulations. That is not good news for that team, and I'm sure that was not intentional. Perhaps they have some issues that we're not aware of, which I'm sure they will let us know about after the race, but as things stands, that is not good news. So Rapid Racing then unofficially get promoted to 3rd place. Sean Jacobs stays behind the wheel of that car. Of course, he is not in the best position in terms of lap-to-lap pace compared to the other drivers. And Black Hawk Racing come back out onto the circuit in 2nd place in LMP2 with a 34-second gap. That is a huge task ahead if they're going to catch up to Daniel Potter, who is once again one of the fastest LMP2 drivers in the series. We won't be seeing any major lap times from the two cars at the moment. Of course, new tyres and a full gas tank will mean that they are fairly slow down the main straights and through the corners as well. As Black Hawk Racing goes a bit wide there into turn 1. Last lap was a 1:35 for the Max Grip Endurance team, and Black Hawk Racing, that's their first out lap on this stint of tyres, so 2:58 for them. course, number 55 still continuing in third in class, 11 seconds off Black Hawk Racing. Now, we did have a battle on our hands between Pascal Chapon and Alexander Meshkov, but it seems that Pascal has extended his lead up to 9 seconds now against the Iceberg team. And then we have Oscar Alvarez in the Fair Play 90 car as well. They have had bad news. They're again into the pit lane. So what is wrong with the number 90 car? That has got to be the third or fourth time that they've come into the pit lane. This is the third time that the number 90, with Oscar Alvarez behind the wheel, has come into the pit lane. So what is wrong with that car? Back underway again. Not too sure what the deal is here, but no new tyres, no more fuel going into that car. Just pit stop after pit stop. I'm thinking maybe they're suffering penalties for speeding in the pit lane, perhaps. I'm not too sure. But all eyes on the leading man, Daniel Potter, or the leading team, should I say. 27 seconds between the two teams. That is not the gap that we was expecting to see. What happened there between the Max Grip Endurance car and the Black Hawk Racing? I think Daniel Potter's made a bit of a mistake because he's lost about 6 seconds to the number 6. He needs to be extremely focused for the last 51 minutes of this race. Anything can happen, and it's all to lose at this stage of the race. If Daniel Potter makes a single mistake, it could cost him the lead of this round of the championship. And as we're speaking about that, Balat Varro is in the commentary box, so maybe we'll drag him in quickly to see what's happened to that car. Varro, welcome to the commentary box. Great show from you guys thus far, and you seem to have been able to eke out a considerable lead of 27 seconds, but we noticed a few moments ago that it was a lot larger a few seconds ago. What's happened to Daniel in his first few moments?
He went wide and spun, I think, or maybe just went into the gravel trap, I don't know. I just came back.
Oh, I see, so you don't even know what's happened to Daniel at this moment in time, but you lost about 6 to 7 seconds compared to Black Hawk Racing.
Oh, really?
You was on about 34 seconds ahead, so I'll just fill you in. You're on your own team, but
well, okay.
But it's a great race from you guys thus far. It's all gone fairly well. I'm going to touch wood on that. Don't want to give you the commentator's curse as usual. It looks like the other teams have suffered a fair few mistakes. Do you think you guys can keep up for the next 49 minutes or so?
I really hope so. Maybe it wasn't on the stream, but we've had a spun as well. Made contact with a GT, and yeah, we lost about 9 or 10 seconds there. But Black Hawk's accident was a much bigger one because they lost some 20 seconds or more. So it's a shame because they are our friends, and so it was a bit strange, you know, qualifying and trying to beat your friends actually, and it was like 2 thousandths of a second between us, so it was really tight. But yeah, they are pushing like a mad, and I hope that they won't be racing on the next round because they are also competing in VEC. But after that, I'm sure that they will bring a much cleaner race, or you know. So they are gonna work hard, much harder to be more competitive against us and against everybody.
Well, we thought that they were going to run away with this one at the start of the race until they had that spin. They're putting a really strong display in the first hour of this race, but it's all gone horribly wrong for them. But they're still in a good position, still going to be with a good chance of getting second in class. And of course, you say you know them, but it looks like after your disaster at Sebring with your engine failure, that you're back on track. Everything's back to normal now. You're about to, well, you're in a good position to win for this round, and that means your championship lead will extend even further. And the only people that are in contention at the moment is Rapid Racing, and they're going to be finishing in third.
Yeah, I don't really know what happened to Rapid Racing. Were they penalized for the wrong start, or it was another team?
No, that was another team that I think that was Hansa Racing that got penalised for that one. But Rapid Racing, Sean Jacobs is in the driver's seat for that one. He's a guest driver, but he doesn't seem to, sadly, although he's a great guy, doesn't seem to have the pace or the lap times that you guys are having. Of course, he hasn't been able to practice as much as some of you guys in the top teams, but no doubt they're still going to be finishing on a podium, which is still going to keep their championship hopes alive, fingers crossed.
Yeah, and we're going to see in the next 2 rounds, because I'll be in Finland, so our new talent will be replacing me, Balázs Harza. You may know him from the GT Masters series in Race Room.
Yep.
And yeah, it may seem a bit strange that we put in our rookie driver for the last couple of races, but we have 100% trust for him, and he's a really quick, consistent, and talented guy. So I'm sure that they will bring home some really good results, like second or third. That's our main goal, basically.
So are you not joining us for the later rounds of the series then? Are you giving way for the other driver?
Yeah, I'll be home I think the 6th of April, and on the 7th that's Spa. So I don't think that I'm gonna be in Spa, so that will be 3 races instead of 2. But for what's the last round?
Daytona.
Yeah, I'm gonna be back for Daytona, and maybe we will do a maybe all 3 of us will be driving on the last round. I don't know. It all depends on the championship. If others will have a chance to win, then we're gonna just push the limit and keep to our main lineup. So that's the plan, basically.
Yeah. Well, thank you for opening into the commentary box with us. Good luck with the rest of the championship, and of course the last 45 minutes of this round. You're doing a great job so far, and it was good to see you guys on track and retaking the initiative, so to speak, after Sebring.
Yeah, thank you very much. See you.
Alright, see you later. So that was Balázs, one of the 2 drivers of the Match Grip Endurance team, current leaders of the LMP2 category in the World Sports Car Challenge. Great display this evening so far by the 2 of them. Balázs doing the first 2 hours, and then Daniel Potter rounding out the last 45 minutes or so. So looks like they're going to extend their championship lead at the moment. We do have the number 6 Black Hawk Racing car. They're 25 seconds behind the leaders at the moment. Of course, they have to navigate all the traffic, including the back marker LMP2s, as well as the GT3s, as Team RSI trying to get past Calamity Motorsport in the number 89, and very careful there as they navigate the traffic going down the inside line into Portimao. Very close there between the two teams. Luckily there wasn't any contact between the three cars, and everyone continues without any issue. Go back through the GT3 order because we haven't actually looked at these in a fair while. So still leading the way is the number 7 Poland Sim Racing car, and that is with Gregor Spilat and Adam behind the wheel of that car. Great display from these guys, still leading with lap times of 1:41, which is extremely fast for the GT3 category, and nothing seems to be able to compete with these guys at the moment. Of course, this is the last stint of the race, so it's down to raw pace and lap times from here onwards, or here on in. And then you also have the other Poland Sim Racing car, the number 90. However, they are taking the number 7 skin for this evening, and they are 19 seconds off the leading GT3 car. So it's going to be a 1-2 for Poland Sim Racing as things stand. Then we have Team RSI, who have managed to get themselves back into the podium spots in 3rd place in GT3. Great showing there by Alicia Filito and Daniel Vidamari. They needed this 3rd place to keep their championship hopes alive, and Iceberg Racing just go a bit wide there. There was no yellow flags, funnily, for that incident, but good result there for Team RSI for the last 41 minutes if they can keep it together. Claudia Barrera in the Martini Racing team, the number 77, continues its way around the circuit, and that is P4 in class. And then you have Pim van Ark in the number 57. That's a further driver change that they've made, but that was not meant to happen. Chris Gonzalez, who was in the car earlier, they pitted just before the hour mark, but it seems that he has run into issues of some sort because he's conceded the seat again to his teammate to continue and finish the race. As I come across the timing line once again. So that is for P5 in class. Calamity Motorsport and Brent Owen cross the line in their Bentley GT3. Not in a position to fight for position though, because they are 1 lap down off the leading cars, and off Pim van Ark in his Ferrari 488. And then Tom Brown in the Pulse Simulation Racing car round out the... Oh sorry, they're 2 laps down. Apologies, I thought that they were the last running GT3, but they're not, because Fabian Ruud is in the Mercedes car and continuing to go around, as is Alexis Clapano in the 61 AMBU Racing car as well. So bad luck for these teams. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 GT3 cars that have suffered at some point during the race, and therefore they're way down the order in terms of laps and not in a position to fight for position. However, if they do make it to the checkered flag, they will still get points for this round, which is why they're still hammering round the circuit of Portimao. Of course, another DNF is another 3 position to these guys, so if they can just keep this thing, their cars going, then they may finish in a good position as the AMBU car goes down the inside of Pulse Simulation Racing, and there's a spin around there for the 2 teams, and a yellow flag is out. So Pulse Simulation, of course, that was not for position, that was not an overtaking manoeuvre, and the 52 gets underway again as he just comes into turn 4 and re-enters onto the tarmac. The number 61 is waiting, Alexis Clapano waiting by the side of the track to concede the position back, says sorry, and they both continue the race. So a bit of action there for you as we enter the last 30 or 40 minutes of this event. I'm just looking at the live timing now. Not much is happening on circuit at the moment. Fastest car on track at the moment is the Max Grip Endurance team, with Daniel Poter leading the way with their car. Just entering the last sector now. back on board with Rapid Racing then, the number 13 car. Still in P4 in class. 12 seconds between them and Rick van der Velden in number 55. Of course, number 55 is no longer classified. Oh, big C's up there by Sean Jacobs as he comes in into Portimao corner. Okay, so we're entering the last half hour of this race, 7 minutes remaining, or so 37 minutes remaining at the 3 Hours of Portimao, which is round 7 of the World Sports Car Challenge. We're going to go for a short commercial break because there's not really much going on the track at the moment. Everyone seems to have a fairly decent gap between one another. So we'll be back after a few messages.
All right.
I sat in the car, you always wonder what's it going to feel like. You know, it was my first time driving a mid-engine GT car. You know, my thoughts were, wow, this is really good for our first time in a car. I was really surprised by it. You're sitting low, you got the A-pillars at steep angles, the windshield's at steep angles, you can see the fender flares. I think we have a chance to win. Everything's got to go right, but I think we have a car that can win the race or be on the podium. But can you imagine how cool that would be to go back 50 years later to the year and do it?
Hello and welcome back to the stream. We're currently live at the 3 Hours of Portimao, round 7 of the World Sports Car Challenge, and currently leading way is Daniel Potier in the Match Grip Endurance team, the 285 car, with a lead of 28 seconds over the Black Hawk Racing team. In the commentary box with me at the moment is the replacement driver for the next few rounds for this team, Balaz Haza. I think it's pronounced correctly. I do apologise if I pronounced that incorrectly, but he's going to be taking the seat of this Oreca Nissan for the next few rounds, which will be Brazil, Dubai, and I think even Spa. So, Balaz Haza, welcome to the commentary box, and tell us what it's like to be a part of a team, and how excited maybe you are to partake in such an endurance event.
Good evening, Matt. Thanks for having me. Like you said, I'm the person who's going to be substituting Balázs Varró for the next couple of races. I am extremely excited about this opportunity, and I'm also really grateful for the opportunity provided to me by the two people running the team currently. It's a great honor to be racing with them. I've participated in quite a few practice sessions with them. They're extremely professional about it. They're running a decent team over there, so I'm quite happy about this opportunity, I must say.
So what's it like to partake in one of these events if you haven't already done so? You know, what's it like to be in charge or be part of a team? What kind of responsibilities do you have as a team member, and what kind of support do you offer one another to get through these events?
Well, if I compare my experience to solo racing, which is where I currently have my only experience, it's quite different because you also have a responsibility towards your team. You have to perform and not let them down, basically. Also during the practice sessions, I am trying my best to contribute in any way I can with feedback about the setup of the car, helping them improve to get the most potential lap times out of the car. It's quite a challenge, I must say. Especially since I don't have a lot of experience in setting up cars, but I help out any way I can.
Of course, being part of a team as well means that you can't have the car exactly how you would always like it. You have to compromise with the setup to compensate for your team's strengths and weaknesses. How is that a challenge going forward into a championship like this?
Well, to be honest, setting up the car is done mainly by Daniel Potier. He's an absolute expert on the topic, so I basically trust him with the setup, and if he says this is faster, then it is indeed probably faster. So it doesn't matter how the car feels to me. I'm quite inexperienced compared to Balázs and Daniel. So my word is not that important right now. Like I said, I have to help them in any way I can, and I try to do that with adapting my my driving style to their setup needs, so that it fits them better, because they will be the most. They will be the people who contribute the most to the race wins or the race results, as far as I expect.
Of course, you still need to help them get there as well. Of course, a lot can go wrong in 1 hour, even if it is a 3-hour, 6-hour event, which you will be partaking in both. Tell us what it's like to drive at night. Have you ever had experience of that transition phase from day to night?
No, I have had no experience at driving during the night yet. I have run a couple of laps during some of the practice sessions at Sebring during the night. It was extremely difficult. The braking points and the reference markers on the track are really difficult to spot. You have to spend quite a huge amount of time on the track during the night to actually adapt and find your reference points, which might actually change depending on the lighting context. So I must say it is quite a challenge. and I would do my best to put in the utmost practice that I can to not lose as much time as I would otherwise.
Well, we'll have to drag you back into the commentary box once you've had a chance to experience a night transition. So that'll be the 6 hours to Dubai, which is in a month's time, and see how you found it and how you got on. Of course, we'll be watching you live anyway because you'll be in the car, but it'll be nice to see from someone who's never experienced that before what they thought about the race and how it went, and what kind of emotions and thoughts went through your mind.
Yeah, indeed.
But thank you very much for coming to the commentary box with us. Looking forward to seeing you in the car, and fingers crossed you can help the 285 car take victory again and again.
Thank you. I'll pass that on to the team members.
Yeah, thanks very much. Alright, take care, buddy.
Take care, bye.
So that was Blatz Haza, who's going to be replacing the driver of Blatz Varo in the 285 car for the next few rounds of the championship. Be interesting to see what he can bring to the table for the team, and it's vital that he puts in a lot of work because this team, of course, leading the championship at the moment, and everything can go wrong if he does not step up the game. Of course, Max Grip Endurance team with Daniel Poter and Blatz Varo know what it takes to get a victory here in this series. They have won a lot of the races so far, and that's because they put in such a large amount of work and commitment to get where they are at the moment, and they're in a good shout to win the championship overall for the LMP2 class if things continue to go well for them. It's not impossible for the other teams to come back at them. It all depends on what happens in the next few rounds. So all eyes on the 285 for the next month or so as the championship continues. For now though, with 26 minutes remaining, it looks like they are going to win the 3 hours of Portimao. 41-second lead over the next car, which is Black Hawk Racing. That's the number 6 car, who are still going round. They did have a spin while we was having that interview with the replacement driver, but still able to maintain the second place with 10 seconds between them and Rick van der Velden. Sean Jacobs in the 13 Rapid Racing car, still in 4th place in LMP2, not able to put down, well, he's doing 135s at the moment, which is within the same second as Rick van der Velden, but it's not fast enough in order to get into the 134s. So not good news there for Rapid Racing. They are the ones that are chasing the Max Grip Endurance team in the championship points, and this non-podium finish may hurt them a bit. Moving down into GT3, let's have a look through the order as we enter the last half an hour of this race. The Poland Sim Racing number 7 car, with Adam behind the wheel currently, is still leading the way with 20 seconds between themselves and their fellow team. Mikolai in the car behind, also with the number 7 skin for this weekend, of course, is in 2nd place in class, and a very good showing from this team as well as the front runners. I have not seen many mistakes between these two cars. And then of course the championship leaders are behind. Daniel Vidamari in the Bentley GT3 car, setting times of 1:43, which is actually slightly faster than the Poland Sim Racing cars at the moment. But they're still going round, and they have a podium finish, which is extremely vital to keep their championship hopes alive for this weekend and going forward. Of course, other teams like the Martini Racing car, the 77 and the 57, we saw them on the front row for a small moment in time in the second hour of this race, but they seem to have fallen back down the order into P5. Still a good result for this team. However, I think that extra pit stop might have hurt them a bit too much for their liking. Still, lessons learned going forward. I'm sure they won't run into those issues again or make the same mistakes as we enter the second half of this championship. And of course, number 90 has been able somehow, Oscar Alvarez in the Fair Play Sim racing car, has been able to make his way back up into P6 in LMP2. I don't really know how he's done that, if I'm honest. It was a tall order because they were at the bottom of the order with their extra pit stops, but they seem to have been able to get it back into position. So great driving there from that driver and that team. Of course, it is a team effort here at WSCC. No one person can win the crown. It has to be a minimum of 2 to 3 drivers per car. A massive piece of air there as he came over the exit of Samson Corner. On board with the leaders still, 285, 30-second lead over Black Hawk Racing. They seem to have lost a fair bit of time. Something must have happened to the Max Grip Endurance team because they did have a lead of around 44 seconds a few moments ago, so maybe an accident or a spin there from Daniel Poter, or maybe just a bit of traffic has got in the way between their car and the tarmac, because they have lost a fair chunk of time. 28 seconds is still a very comfortable lead between the two cars. 1:33.8 was the last lap by Black Hawk Racing. Just looking at the live timing now, there's not really much happening on circuit, if I'm truly honest. Everything seems to have died down quite a fair bit. There's at least 20 seconds in between each car, and that's a minimum. Although, tell a lie, Rick van der Velden is 12 seconds off the Black Hawk Racing car. Still going strong. Coming up against some back marker traffic now as he comes back down onto the main straight. 99 laps completed at this stage of the race with 19 minutes to go. 3 hours of Portimao soon to be completed. And this is round 7 of the World Sports Car Challenge. Of course, if you are watching and you don't know what is in front of you, just head over to our website to get full details of the series, www.checkeredflagendurance.com, all in lowercase, and you can find all the rules and regulations along with registration information on our website under the forum tab. Of course, if you have struggle spelling, then it is at the bottom of the screen as well, so just head over to our website and find the details there. and feel free to join this series. Next round will be the 3 hours of Brazil, which is of course Sao Paulo. As Daniel Poter navigates the GT3 traffic and enters Sector 3 one more time. And Tom Brown has just done the unforgivable and blown the engine for Pulse Simulation Racing, which means that's the end of their race. They can't rejoin, and that's another retirement in GT3. So that makes the total of DNFs a 6, I believe, out of everyone involved, which is not good news, whatever way you put it. And we've also got a yellow flag out on circuit. I'm just looking on the timing board to see if I can locate it, and there doesn't seem to be anyone standing still. Though Daniel Poter seems to be losing a fair bit of time to Black Hawk Racing now. Their last lap time was a 1:35.9. The last lap time of Black Hawk Racing was 1:33.9. So there's a fairly large gap between those two teams. 2 seconds quicker there by the Mazda powered Lola. 17 minutes remaining. If he can do lap times that are 2 seconds quicker per lap, then he will be on the back of that Oracle Nissan before the end of the race. However, he needs to put on a very good show if he's going to be able to do that. 16 minutes remaining and 24 seconds to chew up. Although it's not impossible if Daniel Poter has suffered damage like he says he has. Of course, Varro just said that a GT made contact with Daniel and suffered diffuser damage, so that's definitely going to affect the handling of the car, and that time is coming tumbling down. 24 seconds now between the two cars, and he's just entering Sector 3, so Daniel Poter could be in a bit of trouble here, and maybe Black Hawk Racing are going to take advantage and put in a fight for the win, but he needs to do lap times that are at least 1.5 seconds quicker per lap in order to make that happen, and he needs to make 0 mistakes if he's going to catch up to the back of the 285 car. Can he do it? We'll soon find out. There's only 16 minutes left. Comes across the timing line. 1:34.7 for the Max Grip Endurance team. 1:33.1 for the number 6 car. So he's keeping up the pace. That is good news for that team. That is more than 1.5 seconds quicker on that last lap. 22.5 seconds now between the two cars. Varro states that the 285 has lost 3 to 4 kilometres in total on the straights because of the damage that they have suffered. This is not good news for that team, but it could bring a battle into the last few moments. Navigate the traffic very carefully. Of course, I'm looking on the live timing now. He's just entering Sector 3. He still needs to overtake another 4 cars in order to reach the back of the 285 car. So there's a fair bit of traffic in this small space of time that he's going to have to get past all of these GT3 cars, and while still maintaining that speed and effectiveness in order to catch the Max Grip Endurance team. Down into the last corner, around the outside of the number 7 BMW he goes, the current leaders of GT3, and across the line with a 1, it's got to be a 1:34.1, that is correct, but also the Max Grip Endurance team 1:35.2, so that last lap time was a second quicker that time around, but that's not quick enough if he wants to catch. 22 seconds now between the two cars as he comes into lap 102. Let's go on board with him in his cockpit view, see what it's like to go around in this Mazda powered Lola. It sounds very different compared to the Lola powered Oh, sorry, the Judd-powered Lola, should I say. Very sideways moment there in Samson Corner as he comes down into turns 10 and then 11, which is Portimao. He's still got to navigate the Calamity Motorsport Bentley as he comes down into Sector 3. 13.5 minutes left in this race and 21.5 second gap between the two cars. Max Grip Endurance Team is just about to come over the timing line now, and their last lap time was a 1:34.7, so he has got quicker on that last lap. Daniel Poter's adapting to the changing conditions of the car and giving it his all to maintain that lead that he's got over the Black Hawk Racing car, and he comes across the line with a 1:33.6. That's an entire second quicker on that lap time as well, but it's still not enough. He needs to go faster if he's going to catch this car. 21 seconds between the two of them and only 12 minutes left. He needs to knock off 2 seconds a lap in order to catch the back of the 285. I think that is just simply too tall of an order. Daniel Poter is getting used to the fact that his car is slightly damaged and he's still putting down fairly competitive lap times. All he needs to do is stay within the 1:34s and he will take victory here at the 3 Hours of Portimao. Last lap time for the Master Group Endurance Team, 1:34.7 again. So that is exactly the same lap time that they produced. And here comes the number 6 down into the last corner again and across the start finish line with a 1:33.8. So it's only 0.9 seconds quicker that time round. So he's losing pace. He needs to get into the low 1:33s, and I think frankly it is a bit too late for him to take advantage of this situation. He does not have enough time in this race left in order to catch back up to the Oreca Nissan currently being driven by Daniel Poter. "19 seconds now between the two cars, but only 10 minutes left. He needs to win 1.9 seconds a lap in order to be on the back of that car. Master Group Endurance Team 1:35.2 that last lap. What is Black Hawk Racing going to put on the table? 1:33.6 that last lap, so it is better. The gap has decreased a fair bit as he comes down into turn 1, but I still don't think it's enough. He still needs to get rid of 1.9 seconds a lap, and that of course is decreasing every single time he goes past that start finish line, and it simply is not enough of a deficit or an advantage, should I say, to cross the line in first place. On board with the number 7 Poland Sim Racing car as he comes down into turn 1. There's a fair bit of traffic surrounding him at the moment. as the number 90 and 89 navigate their way around. Oh, and Calamity Motorsport go off in a big way. That is bad news for them. That is Brent Owen, who's off into the gravel. Not sure if he made contact with the wall, but he seems to be able to get the Bentley back onto the tarmac, onto the grey stuff, and continue his journey. Of course, the most important thing that any driver does at this stage of the race is get to the checkered flag. That is what we'll class as, or that's what you need to do in order to get classified for points. So a DNF at this stage of the race would be a disaster for any of the teams that are still running here this evening. And it looks like he just got away with that. Still able to continue. Seems to be very unsteady in the corners with that car. And there's a bit of a dent on the, I think on the left side panel if I look closely enough. I can't seem to get close enough. The camera angles won't allow me to get a closer view of that car, unfortunately. Iceberg Racing still going strong. Alexander Meshkov currently in charge of that car, and that is actually a battle for position between themselves and David Buckley, who's currently in the Positive Energy Racing car. Goes down the inside of Calamity Motorsport. Bit sideways action there, of course. These LMP2s do not like the slower corners because the aerodynamic package on the bodywork does not really come into effect at low speed. So Portimao has been tricky in that respect for some of the teams here. 2.6 seconds between the two cars at the moment. Can David Buckley retake that position from Iceberg Racing, because they've been exchanging the position every pit stop? 1.4 seconds now between the two cars. We could see a fight on our hands. This is for 7th in class, and that is the LMP2 field. He's got the slipstream, 0.8 seconds behind now as he comes down on to the main straight. He's still got to navigate his way around the number 77 Chevrolet Camaro. He's gaining enough ground. Is he going to be able to make it into turn 1? He decides no, that's not close enough, and he doesn't want to dive bomb and compromise his safety, but manages to tug it down the inside. Into turn 3, and Meshkov makes a massive seize of the front right tyre there as he comes into turns 4. 1.3 seconds now between David Buckley and the Iceberg car. 5 minutes left in this race. There's no other battles on the track at the moment. The leaders are pretty much decided, and even Black Hawk Racing 16 seconds off the leading LMP2 car. So all eyes on these two at the moment. This is a fight for position and for some points. .7 seconds now. Alexander Meshkov struggling at this stage of the race, obviously on worn tyres. Is David Buckley going to be close enough to take advantage? Yellow flags are out. That means no overtaking, and David Buckley goes very sideways into the last corner. That is tragic news for that team. Tank slapper, and it manages to catch it and stop it from spinning out, but that has cost him so much time. 3.5 seconds now between those two cars. That is not good news for David Buckley and his teammate. Of course, his teammate is Pascal Chapon, and they did have Roel Hoban as well at one point. as Joshua Jones says that the 285 has just had a spin on circuit. However, that doesn't really matter because it's only 3.5 minutes in the race and there's still 9 seconds between themselves and the Black Hawk Racing team. So he's just entering the last main straight now and crossing the line to start lap 109, but I don't think it's enough. Spin or no spin, there was not enough time between these two teams, and he's lost about 5 seconds. And having said that, Black Hawk Racing must have also made a mistake because their last lap time was a 1:38.3. So they both made mistakes at some point, and that 9.5 second gap could be about 6 or 5 seconds if we knew what happened. Right, let's go back to the fight between Alexander Meshkov and David Buckley though, because they are still in a position to fight for that 7th place. 1.5 seconds between the two cars. David Buckley needs to handle the pressure this time, needs to keep the car on track. He has the faster car. And he just needs to get the slipstream. 2 minutes and 20 seconds as he comes across the line. Can he do it? 279 kilometers an hour as he goes past the speed trap, down into turn 1, navigate past the 7 Poland Sim Racing car, and sideways there, that must be the number 90, I'm not too sure. And another yellow flag. What is it with everyone dying on the last stages of this race? I can't really keep up. I'm trying to watch a race here. I'm trying to watch this battle unfold, but everyone keeps interrupting me. Yellow flag has cleared. I believe that was Sean Jacobs in the Rapid Racing... No, tell a lie, sorry. It was Oscar Alvarez in the Fair Play Sim Racing car who just went sideways for that small moment. And there's another yellow flag. And that is... Is that between Christopher Winter? Yes, it is. That's between Christopher Winter in the 420 and the other Poland Sim Racing car. So, it's all going to pot in these last few stages of this race. 0.7 seconds, though, between David Buckley and Alexander Meshkov. Can he get the job done? And yes, someone just pointed out there's a mistake for the number 6 because there's now 20 seconds between the two cars as opposed to 9. However, we are still going to focus on the number 7 because we want to see a battle for position. This is going to go down to the last lap of this race. Where is the number 1 car at the moment? He's just coming into sector 3, so he will still need to complete an extra lap. David Buckley on the back of the 58 car. A bit of smoke coming from the 58 front right tyre. It's the second time we've seen him do that on that particular corner. David Buckley very twitchy as he comes over the brow of the hill and onto the main straight, or back straight, sorry, into turn 6 and the hairpin. Will he do under braking? No, he won't. He's too far back as licks of flame and fire pump out of the side ports of the exhausts. And this is it. This is officially the last lap, ladies and gents, as Daniel Potter enters sector 1, and he's just coming over the brow of turn 5 at the moment. I do believe that these guys will still have to complete another lap past this point. Can he get the job done? Last 2 corners to go for David Buckley. 0.3 seconds. I believe they still are racing at this moment in time. This is officially their last lap. We'll go on board with them just in a few moments' time because... Oh, wow, okay, David Buckley goes down the outside into the first corner. I don't know if that's the last lap or not. That is, because he's... Was it? Daniel Potter has just started the last lap a few moments ago as he comes down into the last corner now. So David Buckley takes the position from Alexander Meshkov, and that is for the P7. However, Daniel Poter and Balat Svara in the Max Grip Endurance team, the 285 car, takes victory at Portimao. Back to old ways after a disastrous race at Sebring 2 weeks ago. They are back to their old ways, and they take the win again. 150 points for them in their championship hopes. And then in second place comes the Black Hawk racing car, and they have put in an impressive show, taking second in class. Then you have Rick van der Velden in the 55 crossing the line. However, he did do all three of those stints, so they may be disqualified after a review. And then you have Rapid Racing in the number 13 car, and Sean Jacobs takes it home for P4. In GT3, it is the Poland Sim Racing car, who is just coming into set 3 now, that takes victory here. Great show from these guys. They have led from the start, and they are about to go across the line one final time, just navigating the last few corners before coming across the line. And then, okay, so Daniel Vidimari has taken second place in class, because the other Poland Sim Racing car has had several issues, and Team RSI have taken second place in this race. But that was a surprise. We did not expect that. That means that the other BMW is into the gravel. Okay, so whether or not that was part of the incident, he must have crossed the line, because he is classified as finished. So obviously he's just decided to park it in the gravel after crossing the line. So congratulations to all the teams. Can we get them into the commentary box for the interviews, please? It is time to get your thoughts and feelings about the last 3 hours. Stay tuned, guys. Going to get the winners into the commentary box. The number 7 just decides to give his fellow team a bit of a love tap before entering into the pits. But into the commentary box comes the winners of LMP2, Daniel Poter and Balat Svara. Welcome back to the commentary box. Tell us how you're feeling.
Not good.
Not good.
Not at all.
You've just won the 3 hours of Portimao, and you've extended your championship lead. How can that not be a positive to end the weekend?
Adam, what happened then?
I mean, of course, it's really, really good that we won this race. But at the same time, this race was probably the worst one out of all of them, out of all of the one that we have finished.
Do expand.
Well, traffic was basically the worst it has ever been, and I've hit that curve that I had posted on the Discord chat. I did actually hit that, and from there on, car was basically pulling to the right. Well, another thing that happened, we got hit by a GT3 on the back. Therefore, we got some damage on the rear end, and basically the diffuser was not working the way it should. So exiting out of the corners was basically impossible if you weren't going like a snail. So yeah, this race hasn't been the best one out of the races we've participated in.
Well, I'm very sorry to hear that you are not happy with the current affair. However, you did still win the race after several teams had issues, and you do still extend your championship lead. So congratulations for the victory as things stands. Next round is the 3 hours of Brazil. How are you guys looking forward to that one?
Well, as we said earlier, our replacement driver will take part. So, yeah, I just wanna say congratulations to everybody who finished this race, because it has been a tough one, and looking forward to race again. I think I'm gonna be back for the last race of this season. It was great that we managed to extend our lead by 5 points. Sorry to hear that the Exide 55 car is gonna get a DQ because Cliff couldn't make it today. It's a shame for them, but yeah, everybody I think, put on an amazing show, and it really was a tough circuit to race on. So yeah, well, yeah, it had its pros and cons definitely today. So yeah,
Well, thank you.
congratulations to everybody.
Yeah, congratulations again, guys, and thank you for coming to the commentary box with us. And we'll see you in 2 weeks' time at Brazil.
Thank you very much. See you.
Thank you. See you.
Okay, so that was the 285 car victory in the LMP2 class for them this evening, and a great result. But in the commentary box, we'll get the leading GT3 car with the Poland Sim Racing team, and let's get a few words of wisdom from them. Well, Adam, welcome to the commentary box. Congratulations on another win in GT3. Tell us how you're feeling.
Yeah. So again, we can say we had problems with the car. During the change, you can say Grzegorz made, you can say, everything again like it was planned. You can say from the start to the end of his stint, he took the pole position. He led the race until the first hour mark. Yeah, and then I entered the server. Yeah, he's choosing me from the hood, and I'm gaining the control of the car, but the force feedback and the wheel range, you can say, like, made a complete reset. So you can say from the I don't know, like 500 degrees of the turn in some, I had, you can say, like full 1080. So during the first half an hour, you can say, I was like driving with the old truck without the help, you can say, to that turn. I literally on the hairpin, I was making 1.5 turn of my wheel left to make the car turn. That was simply crazy as hell, you can say. And then I decided, you can say, to stop on this turn. I lose the lead of the GT3. I made the alt tab with my direct drive. I made, you can say, in the MMOS program that I had, you can say, opened in the background. I made, you can say, the wheel range in the MMOS to the minimum, and you can say the I stopped, you can say, to turn the wheel like so much, you can say, to the left and right. But you can say the car was very, very agile on the turning, because this, you can say, wheel range in the game itself still was applied. So so you can say I was literally, you can say, driving like a car to the drifting, you can say, because there was like so and the front tires, you can say, they were so so stressed during the full stint, because I was on the res at the end. So Jesus, it's again, you can say, another race, you can say, where we have again problems, but this time, let's say, like I say, in this whole bad situation, we have the win, you can say. So yeah, that is a plus. The minus side is that Mikołaj, our second car, you can say, had some crash at the very end, and he lost the second place to Daniele. That is now our, you can say, RSI. That is now our main competitor. So yeah, he gained some few points at the end, but anyway, that was really like another race with another adventure.
Yeah, it's definitely, obviously you do close down to the championship leaders going into the next round, which is at Brazil. So there are still hopes for the championship, both in LMP2 and GT3 for that fact. But yeah, it's definitely a long road ahead for you guys. Team RSI aren't going down without a fight, which is obvious with their second place this evening, which I think was a fair bit of luck on their side as well, among other things.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but also when I took the car, I can say the display on my cell phone with the gears and with the revs limiters, it also didn't start. So I was like blind, and you can say to drive a car from the, I don't know, 1980s. So literally the amount of turning during this like, you know, during the first stint, the first hour, I was literally having, I can say, the practice session to learn the car from the scratch.
Yeah,
it was the car was so the turning point, you can say the amount of that you had to turn to make the car go around the turn. So and also the tires were, you can say, burning because of this amount of stress that I was putting on. So yeah, in this all, like again, in this whole bad situation, that is finally, you can say, the win. I would say.
Yeah, of course. Rfactor2 does like to challenge us in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
So it is good to see that you managed to tame those and get a victory for this evening for Poland Sim Racing. Of course, the number 91 is which is the other Poland Sim Racing car. Sad to see them get third place in the end, but I'm sure that they will come back fighting for the next round as well alongside you with their own paint scheme. But thank you very much for coming into the commentary box. Well done on your victory again this evening, and we look forward to seeing how the rest of the championship plays out in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
So that is it for this evening, ladies and gents. Thank you very much for watching. That was round 7 of the World Sports Car Challenge, the 3 hours of Portimao, and that is the interviews and the winners complete. Thank you again for watching, and check us out on www.checkerflagendurance.com. But this is me signing off for tonight, and thank you and take care.